Good evening and welcome to the applicant staff, board members, and members of the public. This is the July 21st, 2026 meeting of the City of Bangor's Planning Board. It's 7 o'clock. My name is Jonathan Boucher. I'm the chair of the board. Board members are volunteers from the Bangor community, and other board members in attendance this evening include Ted Brush. Tricia Hayes is absent, but we have Greg Hobson, Ken Hune, Vice Chair Janet Jonas, Ross Whitford, and city staff members in attendance this evening include Planning Officer Anya Collette, Community and Economic Development Director Ann Krieg, Assistant Solicitor Grace Ennis, City Engineer Jefferson Davis, Planning Analyst Matthew Altiero, and Community and Economic Development Assistant Kaylee Rianis. We thank them all for their help in preparation for this meeting. We'll start with the old business, which includes the meeting minutes, the review of the meeting minutes from July 7th, 2026. Are there any modifications or comments?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, okay.
Yeah.
Don't know what I'm doing. I believe it's got a June 16 date.
Yeah, I saw the date correction in my packet, so we'll keep that amended in the. Thank you.
Okay, that was it for me.
Any other changes? Okay. So if not, I'd like to see a motion on accepting the amended minutes with the correction of the date. Member Hune? Yeah, and a second?
I'll second.
Member Hobson. And a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Whitford?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Next, we have the adoption of findings. This is in relation to 557 Stillwater Avenue, 200 and 210 State Street, as well as Milford Street Extension. Any discussion or motion? Member Brush?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the findings and decisions of the January 7th meeting on 557 Stillwater Avenue, 200 and 210 State Street, and the Milford Street Extension.
Thank you. And a second? Member Jonas?
Chair, I second with the clarification that it was July 7th, 2026 meeting. Yeah, you said
Oh, thank you.
January, but yeah.
And a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Whitford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. That brings us to new business. So I'll start with my introduction of it. Yeah. The planning board has two main roles. First, we review amendments to the land development code, which typically include either changes to zoning districts or changes to text within the code. There are no such items on tonight's agenda. But secondly, the board serves as the regulatory authority for land development permits, commonly known as site plan review. Site plans are reviewed to ensure compliance with the city code as to parking, driveways, stormwater management, lighting, landscaping and buffering, building location, environmental impacts, shoreline zoning as may be applicable. We also ensure the plan meets the dimensional requirements for the project zoning district. We review larger site plans that trigger site location development for the main DEP as well under their requirements. Some uses are conditional uses that have specific conditions and requirements to be used to review the project. State statute also outlines the requirements for subdivision review, and the city has additional standards as to roadway and utility specifications. The board ultimately endorses a plan that will go to the Registry of Deeds if the plan is approved. There is one item on the agenda that's a land development permit. Further information on the city's codes and standards and the comprehensive plan may be found at the city's website. For the process of the items presentation tonight for the land development permit, we'll first consider and vote on the application's readiness for review and any concerns for conflict of interest. For all items, the applicant or their representative should then come forward to the podium and provide a brief introduction to the proposal, and then they should stay at the podium while we consider any questions from the staff and or board members. Once the item has been presented, the applicant may be seated. We will allow time for public comments. For public comments, the person should come to the podium, introduce themselves, state if they are a Bangor resident and or an abutter to the property, and indicate if they are for or against the proposal. It's also helpful if you present your thoughts based upon the city codes and standards and the comprehensive plan, as these are the primary documents used by the board to make our decision. All comments and discussions should remain respectful and considerate to others. Once public comment is completed, we will close the item to public comment. Now, sometimes when we have a large volume of people, we put a time limit on the amount for each speaker during public comment. I don't think we have such a large number, but does everyone here plan to speak? Just wanted to get a general idea. I think we'll be good, but if yeah. So we won't put a time limit per se, but if I don't know if anyone really sees a reason to go beyond 3 minutes. That's sort of our typical, but if you do end up going beyond, we understand. The board will then deliberate on the proposal using the applicable standards. For clarity, when considering land development proposals, the code standards are typically read and voted on separately. The final decision is then read and voted on. If the applicant disagrees with a land development permit decision and the board has made, they may appeal the decision to the Superior Court of Maine. Once a project you are interested in has been reviewed, you may leave the meeting, but please be respectfully quiet so as not to disturb the review of other agenda items. Before we get started on our new item, we do have less than 7 people here, so I'd like to give the applicant an opportunity to come back when we have a full planning board. Anytime there's less than the full 7, we give people the opportunity to do this. Does the applicant want to indicate their willingness to proceed tonight or postpone to a later? You want to proceed? Thank you. Okay. All right. So our first item is for the land development application for a major preliminary subdivision, major site development, and planned group development of a multi-phase development of 62 residential units. Phase 1 will include the construction of 14 single-family units on a proposed residential street, and Phase 2 will include the construction of 2 24-unit multifamily buildings with associated parking. The project is located on Grandview Ave, map lot R41-023-A in the multifamily and service district M&SD. The applicant is Developers Collaborative Pre-Development LLC, and the owner is City of Bangor. So staff have indicated the completeness of this application and that it's ready for review. All fees are documented and paid. The applicant's standing is confirmed. Does the board have any concerns about these issues, or are there any conflicts of interest? If none, I'd like to see a motion to accept the completeness. Member Jonas?
Chair, I move the board finds the application was deemed complete as of today, July 21st, 2026. All applicable fees for the project have been paid per Exhibit 46 in our packet. The proposed project is a major preliminary subdivision, major site development, and planned group development.
Thank you. In a second. Member Woodford, Member Hobson. And a roll call vote, Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. With that, we ask that the applicant, but in this case, I think Anne would like to start us off, come to the podium and give the presentation and background for the project.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Ann Krieg. I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development for the City of Bangor. Project that's before you tonight technically is still owned by the City of Bangor. We have a development agreement with the developers that are here this evening to present the plans that, they're developing the property. We retain ownership until certain points of construction, should it be approved, have been completed. I wanted to give the planning board a brief understanding of how we got here. A lot of this project started before some of you were on the board, so you may not be aware of the work that happened that led us here to this evening. In early 2023, at a staff level, we were trying to look at other ways of what we could do to forward affordable housing in the city. The city council at the time had designated that year as the year of housing. They wanted staff to spend a significant amount of time trying to do what we can. We made, as you probably have seen a lot of zoning changes during, those years. But also we were looking at, okay, what else can we do? So we started looking at city properties and to see, can we be part of the solution where we actually dedicate city property to affordable housing. And we looked at this particular lot. It was the old nursery lot, unused by the city. And we really saw this property as, from a planner's perspective, as, a perfect site. There's open space across the street. You can walk to the high school. You can walk to a daycare center. You can walk to a grocery store. There's also a bus nearby. And other types of goods and services that are within walking distance. So we really felt like this is a great site to locate affordable housing. And then we started looking at the affordability. When we were, we've done a lot of housing studies. You've seen them all from the comprehensive plan to the housing study. And what we were hearing from people is that people in the 80 to 120% of average middle income, for median income, for Penobscot County, that they were kind of getting blocked out of finding housing that they could afford because they make too much to get subsidies but they make too little to get into market rate housing. So, for example, the numbers for 80 to 120% for a household size of 4, that range is about $75,000 to $113,000. And for a family of 2, it's $60,000 to $90,000 of household income. So that's, kind of that sweet spot that we were trying to get to, that population of people that are, working in Bangor, they're paying a lot for their rent, and, they're looking for either opportunities to purchase a home or, to continue renting. And so that's kind of what led us to this. So we started again in 2023, and we started working with a group called the Genesis Fund. They support affordable housing projects throughout the state. And they really guided us, because, we're not developers necessarily. I kind of play one on TV as a planner, but, we really needed to get that technical support. So we started working with the Genesis Fund to try to come up with a proposal like, is this realistic for us to do this? And so we went through and, looked at different scenarios of what we could do there. We met with the City Council ultimately in the fall of 2023 and gave them a proposal to say, we would like to use this lot, for affordable housing in this range and for these reasons that I described of the location of the lot. And so from there, we did the following year, we did a design charrette at Husson in March of 2024. And to try to work with the neighborhood to, can we come up with a plan that, is good for that site, that gives us the number of units that we really are trying to get to, and, really kind of have that be a more participatory process for the design process. And then from there, throughout the summer, we, did wetlands delineation, we did utilities analysis, and, ultimately in the fall of 2024, the city manager was authorized to commence negotiations after a request for qualifications process, that we, to negotiate a development agreement. And so fast forward through, looking at water and sewer, analysis and working on an option agreement as well as a development agreement that was ultimately signed just this past January. We're here today now with a plan that we've been working on with this particular developer. So I just wanted to make sure people kind of understood, how we got here. This is a project that's a little over 3 years now in the making, and but we, we're hoping that the planning board will, see this as a good project that, in your opinion, meets the requirements of the Land Development Code. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to the applicants. Thank you.
Good evening, Steve Bushy with LJB Inc. Engineering, formerly Goral Palmer Consulting Engineers out of South Portland. I've been with Goral Palmer since 2019. I've been in the civil engineering world after graduating from UMaine back in 1986, so it's been a long, great trip. I'm here with Mike Line, a Developers Collaborative, the company that the city has chosen to try to go through with this project. I have a slide deck here with some 16, 17 slides I'd like to go through, if you wouldn't mind, to try to give you a sense of the site, what we're proposing and so forth. I don't have a laser pointer. It won't work on these types of screens, so I'll try to walk my way through there. And feel free to interrupt if you would like as I go through each of these slide decks here. So the first one here, easiest for me, Developers Collaborative. Just to add a little bit more to that, I've worked with Developers Collaborative now for probably at least 10 years or so. And I know under their direction and control, what they've built and redeveloped over the years, at least 1,000 units, correct, Mike? 2,000 units. So a lot of development. I've been really fortunate and lucky to help them on so many of these projects. Some of them are new projects, brand new construction. Others are renos. Old schools, for example, have been a target for them for many years now for affordable housing. And I've been involved with many of their Main State Housing financed and supported projects. So we would look forward to having a similar relationship here on this project. On Grandview Avenue. So the aerial that you're seeing shows the site a little over 10 acres. We had Pliska and Day, local surveying company, provide our survey, the boundary and topo. The city of Bangor, as best I know, with the deed, bought the property in 1923. So the city has owned it for a very long period of time. I know it's been referenced as the nursery. The remnants of the parcel include some fencing, maybe one small building. But beyond that, I have not seen any photographs to know, was it more developed in the way distant past or not? But as a nursery, I just assumed that must have grown some trees there and what have you to support the city's functions from public works or what have you. Grandview Avenue is kind of on the north top side of the image here. To the west, left side is the newer development, Prentice, but I can't recall exactly the name of those two new buildings are now constructed. And just to the south, between the site and the Broadway Shopping Center, at least that's what I reference it to, the Broadway Shopping Center. I believe there's a daycare facility now under construction. Then to the east side, right side, there is a power line and more residential development. So Matt, if you go to the next slide. So just some introductions of folks. I've introduced Mike. Jenny Stanley is the architect involved with our multifamily building. She's with Invivid Architects. Worked with her quite a bit on many of these projects with the Developers Collaborative, myself, and our landscape architect, AKLA, a landscape firm out of the Portland market that does also a lot of work with the Developers Collaborative. And as Ann has outlined here, our project has 62 units, phase one of which would be 14 single-family homes. And we'll talk about exactly how we arrived at the 14 single-family as a phase one piece. And then phase two, to get more increased density, is 2 multifamily buildings, each with 24 units. This 24-unit model building is becoming kind of it's a good building to construct within that affordability range, because everything within affordable housing is obviously driven by the cost of construction versus what you're going to be able to get for rents and so forth. So it's a very, very tight market. All the way from York County all the way to here to Penobscot County, and I'm sure even further north. It's just pricing of and building these projects is a challenge. Next slide, please. So again, here is the city's GIS, just to give you a sense of what you see on the city website for the location of the property in the blue color, 10.13 acres. Pliskin Day did the survey, as I mentioned. We want to come back to this at some point in time. You can see many of the other surrounding abutting properties as well. Next slide. So here's the multifamily service district zoning in the yellow, residential to the east, and more commercial to the south and so forth. But you get some sense of where we're surrounded by various zoning districts. Next slide, please. So here's Pliskin Day's existing condition survey. They actually gave us two different drawings. They gave us a boundary survey, and then the existing condition survey has a topography, has some wetlands that you can see here in blue, which was done, and I'm going to show that in a moment, the map that was done by Watershed Resource Consultants, another firm that the city actually performed services for, and then the city kindly provided their deliverables to us to work off of. I guess what's most important here, and I'll talk about it a little bit more when I show you the Watershed Resources Consultant Plan, but you can see the blue lines of Arctic Brook that extends from Grandview, culverted under Grandview Ave, and basically goes north-south through the site. And then a little bit from east-west, there's an unnamed tributary going into Arctic Brook. So along Arctic Brook, there are some wetland systems, and then the blue area here, much of which is within, forested areas that look just nothing other than just some woods, but they're forested wetland systems. There is a bit of a road, I wish I could point out, but it's a U-shaped road, begins kind of on the left-hand side. And on the left-hand side where Versant Power has an overhead distribution line that passes down through, basically, again, north to south through the property. That road, it's pretty rough. I traveled a portion of it just here a few weeks ago, and with a four-wheel drive, and I stopped. I didn't go much further. It's really thick and overgrown. I'm sure in years past, in the wintertime, it's much more passable. There's a couple of trees that have fallen down as well through some of the road network. So if you happened to go onto the site, either walking or otherwise, that's what you would encounter. But that road goes across the unnamed tributary there to the kind of lower left corner, loops back around, and then comes up where there is this fence and a small building back onto Grandview Avenue. There's a second utility system as well that the city maintains for an interceptor sanitary sewer. I don't know the age of that, but I suspect it's been there a very long time because the tree growth over it would not lend you to believe that there's actually a utility down through there. But that sanitary sewer extending from Grandview goes down through to the shopping center, roughly 30 or 40 feet off of the brook. The agreement or discussions, I should say, we've had with city staff relative to easement rights. The city owns the property now, so there's technically not an easement over that utility, but we would certainly be interested, and I'm sure the city would like to have a 30-foot wide easement centered on the sanitary sewer, and away we go. So we have one existing easement for Versant and one proposed easement effectively to the city if this whole land transfer and so forth were to occur. Topography basically slopes from Grandview down towards the stream, both of those segments. We have a little bit of relief across the site, 20 to 25 feet or so, but not too awfully bad. Next slide, please. So here is the natural resources map that Watershed Consultants did for us, though, and you can see in the green on this color and maybe the outline of where that road is. The road has the wetlands on either side of it, and that U-shaped. The red line, red areas, red shading indicates what has been identified as wetlands of special significance because they're attached to the stream segments. We don't have any impacts to those. We've tried to minimize, and I'll talk about this as I get into the actual site layout. Going into this process, we saw the RFQ documents, and Ann had mentioned scenarios that were done through Charette design effort, which was great. I think they had some 12 different concepts of what people were envisioning for the property. Variable density from anywhere. I think one concept may have just had like 16 units, small houses or something, all the way up to like 120, which more density. And it is interesting, at least by my count, and staff can correct me if I'm misquoting this, but as I read the zoning code for the district, density-wise, you'd be allowed like 1,700 units. It's a huge number, and I think it's just the way the calculation works, because you only need like 100 square feet. After you get so many units into your calculation, you only need 100 square feet more for each subsequent unit, which for a 10-acre parcel, okay, well, we have a lot of land here. Nobody's interested in 1,700 units, obviously. So again, here, the green or wetlands, 10-acre site, there's over 4 acres of wetlands on the property. And so that became more of a factor for us as we began to investigate site design. I can tell you that the scenarios as they were viewed, and Ann had mentioned, that was March, I think, of 24, but they didn't have the resources work done probably until the summertime. So those folks didn't have the benefit of truly understanding, okay, what are some of these site constraints? Besides utility corridors, the natural resources obviously present the primary constraints, Arctic Brook being foremost, and then wetlands and so forth. But you can imagine that 4 acres or more out of 10 all of a sudden kind of encumbering the parcel relative to development opportunity. Those concepts, most of them envisioned to a certain extent, most people I think knew that they had Arctic Brook, and then you had the little unnamed tributary. And as I looked at these schematics and graphics, most everybody paid attention to those and didn't develop over them or show, graphics as to buildings and parking and so forth. But they envisioned pretty much the 10 acres being used, just, very close to the streams. We'll let the streams be. And I think there was a certain degree of our view of it as reading the RFP and responding to it. Oh, okay, we've got 10 acres here. Yeah, it sounds like we can probably get some density and some opportunity here. Once we really got into understanding the wetland limitations and then utilities and so forth, wow, that began to really define how we were going to view the project and what we were going to be able to do. So that was important. Next slide, please. So here's our development piece, and it's going to be, we've identified it as a mixed residential development. We have 2 phases that we're defining. The first phase I'll show here in a moment, but it's basically what's on the east side with 14 single-family house lots with what we hope would be a just public street ultimately after it's constructed and presumably made to city standards and accepted, would become a traditional 50-foot wide right-of-way with a 26-foot wide road, sidewalk, curbing, regular utilities, and so forth. And we have 14 single-family lots here for access. That would be the phase 1 of the project, and currently is being really targeted right now. There are discussions, I don't want to get too much into the details as to the financing and funding mechanisms, and either Mike or Ann might be able to talk to that if the discussion leads that way here in a bit. Phase 2, up into the upper left corner, would be 2 multi-unit buildings, each 24 units, 3-story buildings, and I'm going to show you some elevation to that. But these are just relatively straightforward, rectangular shaped, 2 stairwells, no elevator, and just a pitched roof style, 8 units, 1 bedroom or studio on each floor, times 3 floors. So we have 24 units. A nice model, and I'll give you some floor plans here in a moment to be able to look at that. Staff's comments on going from our initial submission to where what we're looking at today, probably one of the bigger comments was connectivity. We had initially submitted a plan with a dead-end street with a turnaround, as you can see here, coming off of Grandview Avenue, and then we were going to have a turnaround, and that was it. And it wasn't going to be connected to the 2 buildings with its parking lot, and that parking lot's 54 spaces. Now, the parking lot for that multi, we're taking advantage of the fact that Versant has said, yeah, you can build parking in our easement because basically their easement extends from the street down through. Well, why not take advantage of that area and put a parking lot? No buildings, obviously. I'll note in our most recent discussions with Versant, and we provided the city today with their letter of intent agreement to, work with us on the project. They've got 3 poles. They're likely to just replace those poles, raise everything up so that everybody's happy with clearances for the wires. It's not bad today, but I'm guessing they're probably going to put 10 or 12 foot high, taller poles in 3 locations that'll raise everything up, and I think we should be in good shape. But staff made the comment of connectivity, and so the plan you see here does show that we would expect that there would be some gate control, though, that could be controlled by the Emergency Services Fire Department, Knox box with a key or something like that. That would basically prohibit that being a cut through for anybody. So the residents in the 14 houses still have effectively a dead end street, and then the multis have a basic parking lot, and that would function that way. It was a good comment. I think we've worked it out well. We actually reduced a little bit of our wetland impact, which was helpful, and so forth. So you can see in this plan as well, and I apologize, I'm not sure I have a plan, but there's a little light yellow just above the word screen at the bottom. That's part of the old road, and what we'd like to be able to do there is have an extension of a pedestrian pathway that would go from effectively the confluence here of the parking lot for the multis and the 14 houses and its sidewalk. Anybody living on this site would be able to walk down that to get to the shopping center. So we would at least extend that. I think that probably matches into where or whatever the daycare folks are doing relative to public access. I don't suspect that's getting used, at least from what I could see, in the summertime, maybe in the wintertime if there's no snow, but I don't see a lot of traffic there. But that'll also connect to the north side to Grandview Avenue. And if you can see here, perhaps, we're proposing a sidewalk the full frontage length of the property. And importantly, to the left, we would have just a short connection to the new flashing beacon mid-block crosswalk. So I don't know the history of the city's installing that beacon, but I suspect it's not very long ago. I'm not sure it's actually been activated or not, but that's a crosswalk to get you to the sidewalk on the other side of Grandview, and then the trails that are to the north of that in Prentice Woods. So felt like that was a good piece. The sidewalk we'd be installing along our frontage going to the west would just stop at the property line, and I'm not sure the city's expectations are so forth. We do show another crosswalk without a flashing beacon, though, that would get, because there is a trail on the upper right-hand corner of the plan. There's another trail system that we would have access, and that crosswalk again would connect to that. Next slide. The important piece on this was the existing conditions, and again, outlining in red, you see the utility easements. So sanitary sewer to the right side, several manholes that are there. And I know that the city, when I went out to the site just a few weeks back, the lower corner, as you see a little angle in their red 30-foot easement, I think they had just discovered a manhole there and uncovered it and so forth. But it's really, really thick on that side of the site. In blue is Arctic Brook. Over to the left is an 80-foot wide easement for Versant. You can see a bunch of topo there. Next slide. Phase 1 again. So that's in the red area here, as you can see. So what would be constructed would be that piece of the road. We've got single-family house lots anywhere from a little over 4,000 square feet to almost 7,000 square feet. Believe we have 50 feet of frontage for all of the lots. It's close on a couple of them, and the lot 1 up on the Grandview, the frontage was going to be measured on Grandview, so the frontage on this street. And we've been using the street name, not without official authorization, but Arboretum Drive seemed appropriate and reasonable. I recall, I think I did try to look up streets in Bangor, didn't find that one. So, okay, maybe that was good, but have not confirmed that with, I guess, 911 director or otherwise, but we will. I'm going to show you a landscape plan in a moment. Again, traditional construction with utilities in the street, services to each of the homes, water, sewer, underground electric, everything would come in. We haven't gotten a lot yet from Versant, but we have communicated with them that we do want underground for everything. And we expect that that will just simply come off of Grandview Avenue. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. Relatively straightforward. I know there's natural gas in Grandview as well, but I haven't done a lot of projects where DC has been using gas as frequently. We're going electric on so many things now. So I'm not sure if that'll be an option or not, but again, it's always driven by price and cost. Next slide. Here are the single-family homes, modular homes, and if questions get into this, Mike might be able to talk a little bit more, but we have two different styles that are represented on our plans, recognizing that our lot configurations all abide by your setback rules, front setbacks, side setbacks, how do these fit? These are modular style homes, basically delivered to the site, built and constructed off-site, more than likely out of state, and then delivered. And this is a new model for DC, and it's really being driven by a long-term plan and vision of trying to build more affordable housing in the state. How do you best go about doing it? And I'm guessing you folks have seen some of that here in the form of either tiny homes or what have you, but this is a 1,600 square foot home with a garage, 3 bedrooms, utilities, would have a crawl space underneath it with a perimeter concrete block, perhaps foundation. Some of those details yet to be configured, but we wanted to show you what this was, the expectation of what the house was going to look like, just a single level. The next slide shows floor plan. As you can see here, 3 bedrooms, 1,620 square feet. That front garage area, I suspect, fits basically a car and a half. I'm not sure it would fit 2, but maybe if you had 2 small, very small vehicles. But the expectation, this is affordable, right? So maybe a lot of people don't have two cars, at least if they're wise, because cars cost so much. Next slide will show you the second model that we've also shown. So that one has a garage more to the side rather than the front, and that's represented on our plans as well. Actually, a little smaller square footage, but again, a 3-bedroom garage style. Sets the garage back, so they have a little bit longer driveway. We've designed all of the houses, though, between both of these models so that at least 1 car length, if not a car length or 2, in the driveway rather, plus the garage. So we think that that should be able to handle well enough 14 houses relative to parking and no need specifically for on-street parking. But again, it's a dead-end street, so I'm not sure necessarily how Bangor would necessarily regulate cars parking on, a street like this. But that's the vision relative to what the houses look like. Next slide, Matt. So phase 2 now in pink shows the 2 modulars, and I'm going to give you a couple of different things here on floor plan and building elevations. Again, it's a model that DC is building and likes because they have a pretty good handle on how much it costs to build these units. We have 54 parking spaces, so with 48 units, we're a little over 1 per. And as affordable housing, I believe the city's standard is, it's less than a 1 space per unit, but DC in this particular location, in their understanding of the market and so forth, it's not downtown per se, and although there is going to be transit access as we understand it along Grandview, which is great and good, but we're providing those 54 spaces. It feels just slightly north of 1 space per unit. Feels comfortable with that. We've got some common space area, and the point that I'll make there as we look at the layout of the site. So Grandview frontage, east side, up against the neighboring multi-unit development. East side, Arctic Brook, in the setbacks to Arctic Brook, we're under some amount of need and desire from DEP, for example, Maine Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, all of whom we've had pre-app meetings, and they really encouraged us to offer as much setback to the resources as we could. And in fact, Maine Inland Fisheries and Wildlife first came out and said, oh, we'd like to have a 100-foot setback from all the streams. Well, all of a sudden you begin to think, okay, well, we're on a project that's looking for density and numbers here for development, and another side of it looks with a different lens and says, well, we want setbacks and so forth. And that makes it a challenge, certainly. And the case that I have made, at least preliminarily, we're filing applications with the Department, DEP, for our wetlands permitting. But our case that we made in our pre-application meeting was all about the city's goals and objectives of a certain density value. And we showed them all of the scenarios that had been done through the charrette, and they began to understand, oh, okay, so the city has a certain expectation of things. There's going to be a give and take here, and can we make a case? And I'm hopeful that we're going to make a successful case relative to what we've tried to do here. Our footprint area and what we're clearing is about 4 acres of the 10. And we do have some wetland impact. We have about 0.85 acres of wetland impact, which, started off more than an acre. Generally, all the scenarios that the city had done, I've, roughly done the calculations, and anywhere from 1 to 3 acres of wetland impact. And, that was just a lot, and probably would be a tougher sell. Where we've arrived, I'm feeling comfortable that we'll get approvals. Staff has weighed in on our design, particularly with some grading pieces that we had provided them on the backside of those buildings. So if lot 1 is up in the right-hand corner, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, those lots, as you can see, are closest to Arctic Brook. And we had some grading. We're trying to create lawns behind those houses, and they did go back a ways, and staff made the comment that, well, geez, we really, tighten it up so you can get more buffer of, i.e., don't touch the woods and the trees that are there, because it's a substantial amount of buffering that is there. And so we've done that and brought in, lawn area and so forth behind those lots. And the staff also made comments and provided direction to a certain extent of, is DC willing to provide deed restrictions on those lots that effectively, when a lot is sold, the purchaser is going to be under deed restriction that you can't go clear all the way to the backside of your property, which, often happens. Somebody, oh, I bought the lot and I can go clear it all. Well, no, you're not going to be able to do that here. So we're comfortable with that to be able to protect the buffers behind those lots specifically. The phase 2 lot area as well, you can see there's a little area in between those buildings just to the right side of the building that's more a vertical up and down, but that would be, at least envisioned right now, some common space and community garden type thing. DC has done a lot of projects. Community gardens seem to be a big hit. The tenants like them, and it's a good space. When I started this, I had many of the single families even tighter to the brook because I was trying to open up the common space in the middle. There was a certain degree of discussion amongst our team in the design, trying to provide a core common, so to speak, between the two styles of housing. It's shrunk up a bit, but we'll make it work. And it'll feel reasonably good at the sake of trying to save some buffering up against Arctic Brook. The next slide. Here's just a typical building elevation for these multis. So I believe the height, I want to say they're like 42 or 43 feet. Honestly, I can't quite remember. Pitched roof, 3 stories, I said. You can see kind of the 2 areas in the middle here that are the 2 stairwell locations, and then you have the units. You have an end view up on the top and then just a side view, and it's basically the same on both sides of the building. So I just gave you this one elevation. buildings benefit from, or the site, I should say, benefits from all of this great location relative to utilities. You got 16-inch water main in Grandview Ave, and we're going to have a looped water main through our site, so that's good. A few more hydrants. Sanitary sewer, as you know, goes through the site, so we'll tie into that and the power. So all good availability for all of those things. EV charging, EV readiness, those are things that in these affordable projects, the EV readiness is typically the direction we go, meaning we install conduits for all of this for future need if tenant demand is there for EV charging. We don't always see a lot of demand, particularly in affordable housing, but we're providing and being ready for it. Next slide. Here's the floor plan. Again, studios and 1 bedrooms. I believe the square footage is here. Did I mark that out? Yeah, 560 square feet for the 1 bed. And then a studio is 502 square feet. Next slide. I wanted to point out, here's kind of our resource area, and you can see the wetlands in the shaded area of where we're impacting wetlands. And the red line is a 75-foot offset line from the wetlands of special significance and stream. And within that area, we have 16,000 square feet or so of impact related to either putting buildings, the houses, or some grading activity. Not a lot. And then the wetland impact, as I said, 0.85 or 37,000 plus square feet of wetland impact. And you can see that the wetlands, basically, some of which, the long, skinny ones, I don't know if they're man-made ditches, you know, from 100 years ago or not, but probably kind of look like that. You can see certainly some semblance of where, you know, drainage, it was an active site for whatever reasons or purposes besides a nursery over the course of 100 years, but that's where those wetlands are. Don't see it on this plan. Back on the aerial, you would. There's a pretty big stand of pine trees down in the lower corner next to the daycare area. If you're familiar with that site, we're not touching those. Those are all south of that intermittent stream. So we're not doing anything there. It's really all upwards above the stream areas. Next slide. Here's just a lighting plan, typical street. I think all of these street lights along Arboretum Drive are 15-foot high, dark sky compliant lights, and then traditional lights along the parking lot for the multifamily. So trying to keep lighting to a minimum, certainly enough though for compliance. But you'll note, again, to the east side of the site, Arctic Brook, and then everything further east, which not a lot as you get up to the top of this property near Grandview, but then Arctic Brook veers away from the property line. Again, all land not being developed, fairly wooded and heavily wooded with, you know, 30, 40 foot tall trees, and the same thing to the south side. I think maybe one more or two more slides, Matt. I can't, yeah. Preliminary subdivision plan. So again, this is just showing the 16 lots, 14 single family house lots. Lot 15 would be the multi-family, and then the remaining open space area, which would be effectively lot 16 as we've currently configured the subdivision plan. Now, if ultimately this gets constructed, you have a public way of 50-foot wide. The city also wanted some easement areas there for the drainage, because the drainage and stormwater management that we provided. So we have a road and we have house lots. We also have the multifamilies, but the road and house lots have basically their own two systems, pretty straightforward, traditional DEP approved grassed under drain soil filters. They just look like relatively infrequently maintained areas. When it rains, they fill up with some water. 12 to 18 inches. Water goes down through the ground, it's collected through some under drains and released, gets water quality treatment, and then the basin itself offers some flood control. We have 2 of those that the city would take maintenance responsibility for long-term because that would be a city road. And so we've provided some easements there. And then there's a couple other drainage areas that too, we would expect the city would want to have the maintenance ability for the property. On the multi-family, their stormwater management is separate and they have their own separate system, all underground with a storage system and filter system underneath the parking lot. And they would have their own maintenance responsibility. So the city has no responsibility for anything having to do with the multis. Water District also wanted to have an easement. So they're going to have a line, theoretically, that'll come down through Grandview, through the street, and then loop back up through the parking lot, through the multifamily parcel. And the Water District said, okay, it's a loop system, great. But we would like to have an easement because it's going to be our water main and it'll be on that private property of lot 15. And so there's an easement identified on the plan. Have the existing easements, as I mentioned earlier, about the sanitary sewer, facades easement. I don't think there's anything else relative to the subdivision plan per se. Not sure if I have one more or not, Matt. All right, yes, a few other specifics. I'm sure there's going to be some discussion and questions. Traffic, 14 single-family homes and 48 units don't produce a lot of traffic under the category of, affordable houses. And what we've provided staff, trip generation, traditional. Our office has traffic engineering. I think our traffic engineers have probably been here in Bangor a few times on various projects or maybe even working for the city. Weekday traffic, 358 trips, 179 round trips. That's the full day. In the peak hours, that morning or afternoon hours, 28, 37 trips. So not a lot of trip generation per se out of the development. I'll just note, the published annual daily traffic volumes that the DOT has. They're not most recent, but 2023. Broadway, they had, or Grandview, I should say, east of Broadway, close to our site, had 2,900 and change vehicles for the total daily traffic, and 3,600 closer to Essex Street. So not huge traffic volumes, but enough so. Took a look at the accident history on the DOT site. Broadway and Grandview is a high accident location. It's got 24 crashes there with a critical rate factor of 108, which puts it above 1, which is kind of the extent of my traffic piece that I can give you, but I'm pointing that out. I do not know exactly if there are any trends for traffic accidents or otherwise on Broadway. Given Grandview's traffic volumes, I'm not sure, left turns sometimes are culprits, but I wanted to present that to you at least. We believe the site distances are fine though at our driveways. It's a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on Grandview. So thinking we're in good shape relative to both of our driveways there. And that flashing beacon that the city's now installed there at that crosswalk. It's a mid-block. There's no, signal or otherwise there, but it's appropriate application of putting a flashing beacon, and we'll take advantage of that certainly. So hope to see that go in. The next slide. So just again, I mentioned, we're really trying to get this project off the ground and some construction for phase 1, i.e. building the road and some house lots here using some funding that I believe the city already has in place. The technical pieces of construction, clearing and grading, soils conditions, had geotechnical engineer do test pits on the property, so comfortable with what we've got. It's not all sand and gravel, but it's also not all soft clays there. So we should be okay. As I've mentioned to you multiple times, utilities are all great. Raising of the poles, though, on the Versant side will help with clearances. We think the fire department access is good to everything. There'll be, I think our plan shows 1 or 2 more fire hydrants within what we're constructing. So that I'll add, the two multi-buildings would have full sprinkler systems. I'm not sure if there's a local code on single-family houses requiring any sort of sprinkler, but we wouldn't expect that. As I've mentioned, cost are always the driver, and we're hopeful that we can get this thing to work. And good site, the sidewalk and trails, I kind of stood out to me as why the site feels like a really appropriate site. I wish there wasn't as much wetland in it, in the streams. Would have gotten more density, but for the 4 acres that were shown on the plan as being developed, I think we've tried to get as much as we can out of them, particularly because of the goals of the single family piece with the affordable housing ownership plan under which this is kind of falling with Main State Housing. And I don't know a lot about the AHOP plan, but this project's already been awarded some AHOP funds potentially to build these 14 single-family houses. So that falls under the state's, targets as to certain categories of housing and affordable housing plans, not just apartments, but housing. And this is trying to fulfill that big need. And then finally, the transportation transit opportunity that just kind of came up in the last couple of days as to a potential to have a bus run. I don't know any more about that, and maybe the city staff can talk about that. But when it was mentioned, I thought, oh, geez, that's like really good. If we could get, a bus route on Grandview and have a stop, if not at the site, very nearby. We're putting in the sidewalk, so that would be great. I think now that's my last slide. Oh, no, process. Local process here that we're going through. Staff's write-up has been clear that, well, you got to get your wetland permit as well. And because we've been having some back and forths with staff in our submissions, I hadn't made my DEP application because I just didn't want to kind of muddy the water necessarily. I wanted to be pretty definitive once I made a DEP submission as to exactly where we were landing with things. And I'm feeling comfortable with that. So it's probably tomorrow that I'm making a submission to DEP. Again, feeling comfortable with the outcome of our pre-app meeting that we did have with both DEP and Army Corps, running them through where we were at and what the expectations were about the development for this size parcel and where we've landed with a 0.85 wetland impact. To some, that may sound like a lot, given a 10-acre piece of property and what we have ahead of us. There with the resources, I thought that was a pretty good number to land on. We really tried to do as much as we could to minimize those impacts and then maintain setbacks from the resources as well. So that's where we've landed, and we're hopefully you folks can query us with some good questions, and we'll look forward to listening to the public as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bushy. Great. Wanted to ask if there's any staff comments.
Yep. So just wanted to clarify on the transit piece of it. We did coordinate with Lori Linscott. She is the transit operations coordinator. There's unfortunately not room for a turnaround on Grandview for a bus to go up Grandview and make a stop there, but there is a bus stop on Hillside, which is a short distance down for people to walk down to that bus stop. What we did agree we could add is a pull off for a paratransit van in front of that northern building. And that's for people that aren't able to walk down to Hillside Avenue. And so it's basically the size, it's a van. They could just pull right in front of there and then turn around and go back the other way. So that's the transit piece of it. I did just want to, you all have the updated decision letter in your packet with the updated conditions, but just for the benefit of everyone, since this is a little bit different than the decision letter that was online, the updated conditions that we're requesting are that the final subdivision plan for the project addresses the comments from the water district that were received on July 20th. And also that the landscaping plan minimize conflicts between the plantings and utilities, and also minimize disturbance in plantings within the 75-foot setback from the wetlands of special significance. Also, that deed restrictions are created for lots 1 through 6 and lot 8 to minimize disturbance within that 75-foot setback outside of that required for the home construction. Also, obviously, that the project receives final subdivision approval, and then before building permits are issued, the project receives the wetland permitting from DEP and Army Corps of Engineers, and that includes the permitting for the activity within that 75-foot setback. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any board member questions to staff or applicant? Yes, Member Jonas?
I just want to talk to the applicant really quickly, because when the way I understand this, when the RFQ was selected by the city to partner to develop this property, the proposed density was 92 units for this more or less same size parcel. And then the proposal that you're bringing to us is just over 60, right? The 14 units plus 48 high density apartments. So I'd really like, for the record, for a succinct, for lack of a better soundbite for our press that are here, why that decision was made and how that actually makes this a better project than having those additional almost 30 units available for the public to live in.
Yeah, the original RFQ response by DC was 94 units, if I recall correctly, and we've arrived at 62. There was a bit of a change because of the AHOP plan or program that was being put out by Maine State Housing. I'm not sure, maybe Mike, you want to talk a little bit more how we went from the 94? I can tell you on the design side for the civil piece of it, which I was tasked with doing layout after layout after layout and trying to make something work relative to the resources and the constraints that we had. We started thinking, all right, we could be pretty close to the sanitary sewer line. And I really felt going into this, without having spoken to DEP, for example, that, oh, they'll allow us to build right up to the utility line because that's a utility line, even though it's very close to the brook. And it became relatively clear once we met with the DEP and IF&W folks that, oh, well, you know, that's only like 25 or 30 feet off of the stream. We don't want you that close to the stream area. So we'd like to have you, you know, they offered the 100-foot and we couldn't make 100 feet work relative to getting any sort of density because it just chewed up. I think the land area available, if we abided by 100 feet to those two streams, we'd have about 2.5 acres of developable land to put buildings. That's not including the Versant right of way where we park. But I've done that measurement as part of my whole DEP permitting. 2.5 acres just really tight to basically fit anything in. We improve a little bit by maintaining the 75-foot setback. We get like 2.94 acres or something like that of developable area where we could buildings. We're a little over 3 acres because I had to encroach roughly that 16,000 square feet into the 75-foot buffer. And that's the case I'm going to be making to DEP. As far as the reduction, though, overall, I'll let maybe Mike speak. I know our concept that we had in the RFQ was reliant, it was going to be a mix of housing styles. I think we had 5 or 6 12-unit buildings, kind of a standard in some areas, 12-unit building, easy to build, have a cost structure to it, a couple of 6-unit buildings. And we had a lot of, we had, I think, 10 or 11, 12 single family duplex style, but it wasn't 100% clear exactly what those were going to look like. They were small, though, very small, and they weren't these single family homes that we've now kind of arrived at. They were like 750 square feet. And so that's how we're getting to that 94, fitting those in. But we've now taken up a lot more square footage with the 14 house.
Good evening. I'm Mike Line. I am the Director of Commercial Real Estate with Developers Collaborative, and thank you for having us here tonight. And, you know, engineers are all detail oriented, right? So I think the short answer to that is we just got pinched. We started with a much heavier plan that was much more multifamily heavy and the smaller duplex, and we had that pretty much right up to Arctic Brook before we really started to understand what that setback was going to do to us. And at that point, we were approved those 10 units through the AHOP program with Maine Housing. We were eligible for 14 units. So that's when we pivoted. We went to the lot, we shifted off the brook. We went to a bigger single family project. And as time has worn on between the Versant easement and the parking requirements over there and the brook requirements, the whole site just pinches down organically. So we feel like we've kind of maxed the number of units we can get on it without in order to get the DEP permit and not be, not rolling the dice with for sand.
Yeah, Member Jonas, you had a follow-up question?
Just a quick follow-up. I'm also wondering if you could speak just briefly, succinctly
Yes.
about how having these affordable housing units for sale for ownership benefits affordable housing efforts in Bangor, where a portion of this will not be rental, it'll actually be available for families to build wealth in that particular community.
Yep. The vast majority of our work is in the multifamily arena and and that's pretty much the product that Maine Housing has worked on for decades. This is a new program that was rolled out in 2024. We were one of the first batch of applicants. And this is, the acronym is AHOP. It's the Affordable Housing Ownership Program. So Maine Housing is really starting to focus on and listening to the public and realizing it's just not a rental need necessarily that we really need. It's the wealth building. It's the equity piece for younger people. It could be an equity piece for a retiree, so we're not specifying workforce. A lot of people talk about the missing middle. That could be my kids who are in their 20s. That could be retirees who worked in the public sector their whole life. So that's what we're really focusing on. That's what Maine Housing is focusing on. But this is a new product for us. We typically work on, senior and family projects that are rentals, but it's definitely an area that the state needs to is addressing, and we're going to get into that space more and more. This is our first project with single families.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any other questions from councils? Member Hughes?
Yeah, on your multi-building, it's 3 stories. I didn't hear anything about an elevator, and if there isn't one, how does that affect the Americans with Disabilities Act and accessibility and all that stuff?
Yep. No, that's a good question. There are no elevators in that building. So all the ADA units, the required units, would be on the first floor. And so they have to be grade accessible, whether that entrance right at grade or we have to ramp into that first floor. So they are essentially 3-story walk-ups. And that same model we can build with a flat roof, with an EPDM roof. That we happen to put pitched roofs on it. We're doing the same building in Bath for Bath Ironworks for a workforce project. And that neighborhood really preferred the pitched roofs based on all the historic homes in the neighborhood. And they thought that the flat roof wouldn't necessarily fit in. And the building's going up right now, actually, and it's roofed and being roughed in it. And scale wise, it actually fits really well. We like them. So no elevator, ADA on the first floor. I think that answered all your questions.
Yeah, well, one more. The EV charging stations?
Yes.
I mean, he made a offhand comment about not sure that affordable housing needs that, but I think in the future, electric cars are probably going to be cheaper than internal combustion engines.
Yeah, more and more. Yeah, we're seeing.
Look at the Chinese model, which the American automobile manufacturer is going to have to meet. They're going to be pretty cheap.
Yeah, no, so he talks about, and Steve talked about, gas being in Grandview as well. For that AHOP program, per the financing requirement, conditionally, we have to make those all electric. We have to make them solar capable. So we rough in for solar, for future solar, and we have to provide a certain number of, conduit to the parking areas for a certain number of future EV stations. So it's really moving towards at least roughing in for, the electrified world. The multis, depending on the funding source, which we have not nailed down yet, could be gas heating, but if it's a Maine Housing project, I guarantee you it'll be all electric.
So the charging stations won't be per unit. It'll be so many in the parking lot?
For the single families, actually, it will be per unit. Each unit has to be roughed in. So they have to be, their garage will have to have a right size panel, and the conduit will have to be there. And they can add the charger itself later, but the panel's got to be big enough and the amperage to the building has to be adequate.
At 220 or something, or what?
Level 2 is 240. These would be probably level 1 chargers, which would just be 120. Typical building will get 200 amps. So not to overpower a small single-family home.
Any other questions to the applicant or to the city staff? I have one question to city staff. It's about the enforceability and what it would look like for the deed restrictions for the people who would be buying these properties up against the water. Is that, so they can't clear right up to the, past the buffer zone, the 75-foot area. What is the process of enforcing that? I'm not familiar with that. I haven't run into that previously.
Grace, do you want to time on?
Yeah, just so I'm clear what you're asking, are you asking about like if they were to extend past a lot line or something like that?
Yeah, what's the body that checks? Is it just at the resale of the property that the deed is reviewed and it's seen whether or not it's in compliance with the deed restrictions, or?
Just to clarify, it's the restriction that they would be placing on a homeowner clearing within their lot. That's what the deed restriction would be, restricting people to.
It would probably be at the time of purchase and sale. You know, when you purchase a house, somebody goes out and looks at,
It wouldn't be code enforcement is my point.
No.
That would be going out and checking on these.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's, I thought it would be at purchase and sale. Thank you. Wanted to understand that a little bit. Any other questions before we, thank you for the applicants for your clarifications. At this point, we are looking to open public comment. So for this process, we just remind you to state your name, if you're a Bangor resident, if you abut it, if you're for or against it. And I see that the light is green, but if you do turn it off, or if you do come up after someone, just make sure it's green so that everyone can hear you. So if we have anyone who'd like to come up for public comment, now's the time. Please.
Yeah, hello, my name is Nori Kasdoy. We live on 555 Grandview. We live right next to this project. So needless to say, we are a little concerned. And those numbers for traffic are from 2023. There's been more construction. There is a childcare facility with room for 200 children. Traffic is going to be a disaster. It's already bad. Essex suffers, Broadway suffers, like you mentioned. There's many, albeit for the most part small, but still accidents on that corner with Broadway. Traffic is going to be an issue. And yes, we are all bus service and a walking path. People are going to use their car. But this is the culture. People are going to take their car to Hannaford. They're not going to walk with their heavy bags down that walk path. It's nice that it's there, and for strolling, but people are going to drive. There's going to be a lot more traffic, I can guarantee you. And which is very disturbing. There's been lots of construction in that area. It's already very congested, and now we're adding this okay, yeah, then low income, there won't be much traffic. There will be a lot of traffic. And I would like to see how we're going to resolve that. You have to anticipate before you decide to build, and it is going to be an issue, I guarantee you. Also, I have one question, whereas the single family houses are going to be for purchase, right? The multi family units are going to be rentals. Who's going to manage those?
What I might suggest, what I might suggest is we'll keep track of that question.
Okay.
And then if there's other comments, and then at the end, we'll give the applicant a chance to respond to those. And
Okay.
we'll just make sure that we have.
Yeah. So the traffic is an issue. Also, living right there, it's a very wet property. It's a wetland. Most of our property is very wet. It freezes in the winter. It elevates. It changes, with the seasons. I'm not an engineer, so if somebody can explain to me, if you're going to, build all these heavy units partially in the wetland, how is that going to affect how the water is going to be processed? Is that going to affect our property? It's already, not easy keeping our garage and our basement dry. Is it going to push some of that water? It might be a stupid question, but could that affect my property? And if it does, do I have any kind of resource to say, listen, guys, this is what we're going to do about this? Those, let's see, I think also the new neighborhoods that have been built in our area lately are very stark. I know there is some existing trees that I'm glad that you guys are keeping, but still Whisper Drive and the new neighborhood of Lancaster, there's nothing there. It's very stark, it's very ugly. Are there any plans to make at least this more aesthetically pleasing? So it doesn't look like, you can drive into Whisper Drive. It looks awful. Those were the concerns that I had, so thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Just a point of order. Got questions here. I was going to ask maybe the applicant to, I can either just finish public comment and we can keep track of all these questions and then ask the applicant to come back up and answer them, or I think that's probably the cleanest way to do it rather than back and forth. So if that's how I think we'll do it, and we'll just make, I have a list and we'll do our best to make sure that you get a response. All right, other public comment?
Good evening, members of the planning board. My name is Brian Ames. I'm a resident of 124 Lancaster Avenue, which is not too far away from this project. And I just want to say that this is the first opportunity that we've had as neighbors to see what the details are of the potential project. So what I'm asking is, what I'm saying is that we are a little bit behind the curve in terms of being able to offer suggestions and being able to participate in the process at all. But I will say that there are some observations that I would like to make, and they are in light of the recently constructed project that has been referenced that is now on Lancaster Avenue. And I see very many similar issues that are going to be presented with this development here. And those issues relate to setbacks of the buildings from public way. They relate to landscaping and the ability to keep these buildings in somewhat of a manner that's consistent with residential buildings in Bangor. And that's one of the things that I'm most concerned about, is maintaining the Bangor residential character. I don't think we need to be a South Portland or a Portland simply to create more units, which is, I think, the basic objective here. I think the design team has done a great job, by the way, in terms of how they've laid out the single families and the architecture that's been proposed for the single families. I think they've done a great job. I would take a moment to look at the multifamilies and notice that they're very close to Grandview Avenue. In fact, they're beside Grandview with a very little setback. And that's going to be very, very imposing upon the character of Grandview Avenue. And I think maybe that could be taken another look at in terms of whether or not there's any opportunity to do more construction on Lot 10, for instance, Lot 16, pardon me. What's going to happen with Lot 16? Is that ever going to be developed in more? Is it going to be set aside as a wildlife refuge, or what is it going to happen? So that's one question that I have. The other question is, are any of the existing trees that were part of Roland Perry's tree farm, are any of those going to be reused and perhaps saved, or is it going to be a clear cut from wall to wall like we've experienced recently in our neighborhood? And if that's true, then I didn't notice on the landscaping plan where those might be and exactly how much landscaping there would be. I noticed there is some along Grandview Avenue, also out in the right-of-way of Grandview Avenue, which is a good thing. I think we need that. So those are my comments. And I just did want to say that, again, the original concept was for quite a number of units, which as we found out, the restrictive situations of the site forced it down to a much smaller number. We are happy, I think, with the single family homes. I think those are very nice. And again, I would like to take another look at the setback of that parallel building next to Grandview. I think it's going to be very imposing in terms of the neighborhood similarities. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ames. Any other public comment? Yep, please.
My name is Kelly Hashi. I'm a taxpayer and a homeowner. And I have the unique thing that me and my friend walk 2 miles 7 days a week. We live where the disastrous Maine Woods is, and we walk on Grandview Avenue 7 days a week. We used to be able to have a conversation on Essex Street, which is right around the corner, goes down Grandview. We can't do that anymore. The traffic is so horrendous. We've almost been killed. I can't even tell you how many times. 4 times I've had people try to get me in their car. This was with another person this week. He didn't speak English. He said, "You got to get in my car. You got to get in my car." I don't want to dwell on that because I got too much to say. I wish I had 50 minutes to talk because I got a lot to say. We live right near the Maine Woods development, which was all supposed to be affordable housing. Right now, it's mostly rented. The people who bought have mostly sold it and to other people. If you followed up with these projects, you could learn from, we're victims of what has happened to us. The advertisement in the paper said that the land you're going to use is city-owned. You work for the taxpayers, and the taxpayers own the land. And in Bangor, as a taxpayer, I want to, and I'm going to ask rhetorical questions, don't answer them. I want to know why in Bangor as taxpayers, we're not allowed to vote on the city budget, school budget, county budget, and what you vote on to do with taxpayer-owned land. We should get to vote on this. Grandview is also built on the Arctic Brook. We know firsthand because the Maine Woods was built on the Arctic Brook. It's flooding continuously. On East Broadway, which is an abutter to that development, 4 roofs have had to be replaced because once you rip out every single tree and all the dirt, there's no buffer anymore. It's like a vortex of wind that just comes and rips the roofs off. My neighbor, he knows her because we're neighbors. She had to spend $10,000 on a roof this year. And other people have had to do repairs to their roof. One neighbor, still the same vortex, their insurance company said, "You have to replace your roof or we're not going to insure you." This is what happens when you rip every tree out. There are consequences. And there are animals that live there. And I have been in planning meetings for the last 3-4 years. The comprehensive plan says you were all about open spaces. You're slowly sucking away all the open spaces and all the animals have nowhere to go. I walk this every day and I see how many animals are being displaced. The traffic, they're going to go 25 miles an hour. It says that all this stuff works on paper, but we are victims of reality. What has happened to us? The flooding, the wind, the mosquitoes. It's just, as a homeowner, you don't have a choice. The second this development went in behind us, I had to put gutters on my house. My basement flooded day after day after day. And I'm a photographer. I have 25,000 photos. Thousands of them are on flooding. 12 months out of the year, flooding, 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 flooding. My neighbor had to put in a new cellar, $32,000. This is the reality of these developments and the ripping every tree out and sticking 4 million people in there, being abducted by people. I mean, it's not safe even to walk anymore. Now, 2 people last week told me I should be carrying. That means carrying a gun. I don't carry one, but I now carry mace. You're overpopulating and just thinking this is a utopia that we're gonna, we're doing housing for people. We have illegals living in back of us, renters living, motorcycles that go all night. My neighbor's dogs are all discombobulated. Anyway, smart growth, this isn't smart growth at all. Why is there growth at all? There's enough people in this section of town. Go somewhere else. And I want to say on it, I want to vote on this stuff. And I'm tired of not being able to vote on anything. My neighbors have also had to put up fences, roof repairs. Grandview's just going to be another environmental disaster. I say we owe everything to the veterans. First off, the veterans, the homeowners who are paying these exorbitant taxes here. I have a friend who lives over in the Skowhegan area. She has a house, a barn, and 4 acres and pays $400 a year. I have a neighbor in my neighborhood who pays over $10,000 a year in Bangor, Maine. So we need to have more of a say in what's going on. The taxpayers and the elderly owe everything. You don't owe these magical people that you want to give housing to. We live here, we built this city, and we deserve that. Bangor has stolen all our democracy from the taxpayers, and we're tired of these stupid decisions that make our lives worse and cost us so much money. It cost me thousands to put on gutters. I never flooded before. I live in my family home, so I know the whole history. And it never flooded. We never had to have gutters. So it's more than just, oh, wow, this all looks good on paper. So I am vehemently against this. Thank you very much.
Any other public comment?
I'm Mark Tuck. I live at the end of DeWitt Street. And the power line that they've been talking about is my back line. So I'm quite familiar with this area. Now, I've lived in Bangor my entire life. And so for 73 years, I've been able to appreciate the quality of life that Bangor has provided me and my family. When I look at how close these houses are going to be, that is a very poor quality of life that Bangor is supporting for these people that will be required to live there, that will start out there. But as we've seen in the other development off in Lancaster, many people are rotating through, and they're finding that this form of lifestyle is not what they are looking for. So I wish you would be very cautious as you promote the housing and the congestion that that this type of plan actually provides. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tuck. Any other public comment? Is there anyone on Zoom, or is there any other comment you're seeing? All set? Okay. At that point, I think we'll close public comment, but I wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to revisit some of the themes that came up. It sounds like we would like to put that back to the applicant. Some of the major themes we heard were about traffic, landscaping, and aesthetics, impact to, like, I think it was phrased in different ways, but water damage or other damage related to this development. So it would be about water management, I think, would be the theme. And if property damage, yeah. Yeah, of course.
We do have a subsidiary management company, a developers collaborative called DC Management, who would manage the multifamily portion of this project.
Thank you for remembering that about the multifamily. There were other topics about setbacks. Would you like to, okay, I didn't realize you were going to come back up. That was what would you like to speak to any of those items?
Sure. I'll talk to kind of some of these technical issues, maybe traffic first, and understanding the numbers that we've represented to you folks in our application represent standard calculations and traffic trip generation using published numbers from what they call the Institute of Transportation Engineers. And I have traffic people in my office who provide me all of that background information. Those are basically just published numbers that go with regular housing projects. And there's all sorts of different categories, and we try to use those that best represent the proposal that we're putting forth. And so those are the numbers. For a sense of scale, on traffic generation, trip generation here in the state, typically if you have a project that generates what they call 100 trip ends in a peak hour, AM or PM, could be one or both, then that might trigger you to have to go to the Department of Transportation to get a traffic movement permit. I'm not as familiar here locally within your own codes as to what might trigger traffic analysis or otherwise, but the numbers that we provided more or less in response to staff comments were just the trip generation numbers and some of this other information I gave you in the background as to, okay, Grandview Avenue and what is that, as to site distances, the speed limit, and we've represented that, yes, indeed, Grandview and Broadway is a high accident location from DOT's published numbers, but typically in our representation relative to the trip generation we're providing, we don't trigger a traffic movement permit with the Maine DOT. And the numbers from our perspective on, again, the technical engineering side, they're relatively low, and we wouldn't expect that they're going to generate more. Now, I understand traffic is always a sensitive local issue per se, and I get that. And so we're happy to perhaps talk more, but those are the numbers that we have. And the conditions, particularly, as I've mentioned, the crossing beacons at the crosswalk, I mean, that would be commonly a topic that we would have for pedestrian safety for crossing. And we're doing what we can relative to our development of providing sidewalks for our full frontage, connectivity to the south so that people wouldn't have to necessarily get on the Grandview. If they wanted to walk to the shopping center, they'd be able to walk down through. We didn't talk specifically about what maintenance might look like in the wintertime, because I understand, okay, if we have a trail going through property, what that looks like. And I don't have any specifics to that because we haven't really talked about that sort of thing. But that's where we would land on traffic. Stormwater and flooding, those sorts of issues. So what I've represented, we have our development. We're under 3 acres of new impervious area. Traditionally, when you have a development between 1 to 3 acres of impervious area, meaning roofs, pavement, and the like, you're required to go to the DEP, and City of Bangor has its own standards relative to stormwater. They're pretty consistent with DEP standards as well. And there's 2 things that you're looking for. You're looking to treat stormwater runoff because it comes off of dirty surfaces of pavement, roofs, and otherwise, and you're trying to control it to stop the flooding. And as I heard, the comments about flooding. We're providing systems that basically do what is the standard practice of when it rains, you store some water on your property and then you release it very slowly so it does not cause a flooding issue downstream of you. We're discharging to the brooks, and we obviously don't want to cause issues with increased peak discharge into those brook systems. So we're sensitive to that, and we're providing these systems that are, generally speaking, the standards relative to, I think, probably Bangor, but in a larger perspective, the DEP. So you build little basins, ponds for the multis, for example. You can't see it because it's all going to be underground, and we're going to spend a fair amount of money on building all of those. And all this boils down to how much money do you spend to take care of stormwater runoff. We believe that the systems we're providing are, more or less state of the art and state of the rules to satisfy those. And thus far, staff have basically reviewed our calculations and our designs and given us a little bit of feedback, and we've made some updates, and I think we're in pretty good stock relative to that as to our site. Recognizing, again, we're in this little wedge of area bounded by the brook, Arctic Brook on the east side, an unnamed tributary more or less to our south side. All of our water flows into those areas. We've evaluated to those points and said, all right, we're going to store some water, we're controlling it, and basically we will be as good or better than what the current condition is. So that's what we've provided there. A good question was raised relative to how you go about building things in wetlands, and I agree that those are challenges. We're not going to build a house basically at grade in an existing wetland area. our site right now, what we're showing is that we're going to bring some fill to raise buildings and the houses and the multi-units all within the area of construction. So most of these houses are going to be raised up 2 to maybe as much as 4 feet on good fill that will, yes, we have to clear all that area and grub it all out, but bring in good granular fill so that we have good drainage. The single families are all on basically crawl spaces, no full foundation. So to a certain extent, that helps. Some of our houses, in fact, are going to have under drains. I would expect probably all of them ultimately going to have some under drain systems around to help with drainage as well. The multis are basically slab on grade construction, perimeter foundation to frost depth, foundation drains. And again, they're both on fill because this site slopes away from Grandview down to the brooks. My approach is we fill it all in with good granular material so drainage and flooding, that sort of thing, isn't an issue for all of our sites. So yes, it is a concern when building in wet areas, and we're addressing that. Lot 16, I heard a question with respect to maybe what would be happening to lot 16, which I identified as basically the open space, roughly 6 acres of area. Thus far, just open space would be recorded in the subdivision plan as such. DC has no plans or expectations for any of that. I don't know the specifics as to ultimately who retains ownership of that. Does it retain as DC, or maybe the city takes it? It's basically all the area outside on the other side of the brook from our development, and we're not proposing to do anything with it. It's just too hard and too difficult relative to, crossing of the brooks and then the wetlands and so forth. Maybe the city has different expectations, but it's currently not part of our proposal on that, and it could become basically just the city's land if need be, I suppose. I think, well, I'm remiss here, realized. No explanation other than I completely missed it here. The landscape plan. We've submitted what I would call a very robust landscape plan. There was some calls to that. So I apologize. Somehow or other, I realized didn't put my landscape plan in there. And I'm sure the folks at AKLA will be like, what happened? What I was going to point out on that plan was the number of plantings that they've proposed. And the good folks at DC always say this when this landscaper, they usually go overboard with plantings. We typically don't get too many complaints about the number of plantings because all right, great. Thank you, Matt, for pulling that up. Very hard to see the numbers on this plant list to the right, but they do have the numbers there. I think on the shrub count, I was over 800 shrubs that they were proposing. The number of deciduous trees might have been like 99, and then there were some evergreen trees, a pretty decent number, 40 or 50 evergreen trees, all within this 4-acre area. Ann had made mention, in fact, there's comments from the utility company and the water district. We've got too many plants, and a lot of them are over some of the water services and so forth. So we're going to have to tweak a few things and make sure we're not putting plants over water services and that sort of thing. But as you can see from the plan there, the larger circles represent street trees, and then there's all sorts of shrubbery and so forth, and an esplanade. The street, I didn't really describe it as much, but it's a regular paved street, curb to curb, esplanade, 5 foot wide, then the sidewalk behind that. So we've got street trees, traditional street design, at least on Arboretum Drive. Also up on Grandview, you can see we have a curb along Grandview that'll be installed today. That's non-curb section. Water just sheets off the street and goes into the road or into the woods. We'll provide a curb, a little drainage system, esplanade, and then sidewalk. And you can see some large circles there. Again, street trees along that side. Plantings all around the multi-unit buildings. What we probably are a little shy are around the single families, leaving that probably to owners. Staff has made a comment. We have to make an update. You can see on the plan to the rear of lots 1 through 4, for example, we've got a few trees right at the back of the line. that's a non-disturbance, and I didn't do a good job coordinating with the landscaper to say, oh, by the way, our tree clearing limit's like halfway through the middle of the site. We can't have any trees out in the woods. So we're going to clean that up as our final modification there to make sure that, one, we're not showing big lawn areas behind those lots, because those are supposed to be the deed restricted areas where we're maintaining existing buffering to the brook. But you can see there's a lot of circles there. And so it's a pretty intense landscape plan, in my opinion. So hopefully that's addressed that. And again, I apologize for not showing that. I'm glad Matt was able to bring that up for you. That's what I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. That was my list as well. One item that wasn't really talked about though was setbacks. Would you like to address that in any way?
Setback for the multi-building, that, as I understood the comment being directed towards the building that's basically facing Grandview and its setback. Again, we held the setback per the zoning basically because I was trying to keep tight and not expand the site because of our wetland restrictions. It's just this game we play, knowing that Grandview and the street where it sits from the right-of-way line, we actually have a pretty good distance there from the edge of curb to the right-of-way line. So we're able to put in, I forget the esplanade width, might be 7 or 8 feet, and then a 5-foot sidewalk. And then we have, I believe, the front setback.
10 feet.
10 feet, right. So we've pulled that building back beyond that. So it's sitting 30, 35 feet off of, well, maybe not that much, maybe 25 feet off of Grandview's edge of pavement today. But really, we're trying to take advantage of the space, because if we moved it further into the site, then we'd be dealing with more wetland impacts.
Just to add to what Steve said, we've looked at as the site got pinched and we went from at 1.8 multifamily buildings down to what are now 2. We looked at different configurations. That configuration also allows that courtyard piece. And if you look closely at the site plan and the landscaping plan, there's that pedestrian connection between the single families and the multis, with the idea being that courtyard can benefit both sides of the project. Someone made a comment that this product is small and tight and too dense and not what Bangor needs. Quite frankly, it's smaller lots, and that concerned us as well. And so this connectivity, whether it's to the open space to the south or Prentice Woods to the north, or the courtyard between the 2 projects, was important to us to keep and maintain. So if we pivoted that multifamily, we could put the narrow end up against Grandview, but we would pretty much dig into that courtyard space. So that's the genesis of how it kind of lays out. And we've just tried to preserve that courtyard the whole time, and it's just kind of shrunk on us.
Thank you.
Chair, I'd like to address a few things if I could.
Yes, so Planning Officer Colette, if you'd like to comment to some of the public comment items and the
Yeah,
applicants' feedback.
I just wanted to clarify that, and Stephen kind of touched on it with the open space, but as it is the designated open space recorded on the subdivision plan, it wouldn't have development on it. It would also have a deed restriction on it, limiting development. And then also, we have talked to the city forester about this lot. They had input on the plan, and they are going to be looking to see what trees they can relocate and keep at the city nursery for planting elsewhere in the city.
So you're saying, McKenna, taking trees off the site and placing them elsewhere in the city?
Yeah.
When
Right.
possible?
Mhm.
And did you say maintaining trees? Or we've already seen what they're planting
No,
plan is. So it's just about,
taking the existing trees
Yeah,
that are in
making
the
sure I understand.
development area. Yeah.
So we talked about so any other questions to city staff or discussion before we move forward? So member Jonas?
I'm sorry. This is not the first time I've heard or read about concerns about the Maine woods being very, I think the term was used, sparse. And so my quick question for staff is how do we ensure that what is presented to us, because we are really careful to have robust buffers and plantings and everything when we approve the plans, but where in the process is that actually verified and enforced?
Yep. So what happens at the end of a project when it's completed is the engineer submits an as-built drawing to us, and they submit a letter that they stamp that says this project was built in conformance with the plan. They send up to the code enforcement officer. And that's basically, we rely on that engineer's stamp and their license to say this was done in accordance with the approved plan.
And so if we get public feedback that perhaps that wasn't the case, does code enforcement go out and verify that?
I want to kind of defer to Ann and legal about that.
Yes, code enforcement would go out and verify whether or not that plan is adhered to. Thanks.
I'll add to that. So the city is an MS4 permit, stormwater permit. So we have permit requirements. So we have a stormwater manager that goes out and inspects these properties as construction's going on to make sure they're building what the plan says, what the DEP permit says, or what our permit says. The city is delegated authority to do stormwater law plus site law. And we follow what DEP says. We follow the same standards, same permit requirements, everything. So yes, code engineering is involved when these are happening. That's all I'll say to that piece. But we had some other questions. I think Anya answered Brian's question about the tree farm, but we have met with, just to reiterate that, we have met with forestry. I'm also a landscape architect, so I look at this stuff in maybe a different lens than other folks do too. But we have an opportunity to do some get a tree spade and replant those throughout the city. So that's what we're working on. So I knew Brian was going to actually ask that question because Brian worked here many years ago, and I'm sure he was instrumental with Roland Perry to get a lot of this out. So I kind of had a feeling Brian might ask that question, but that is something that we have looked at, and to make sure we just don't clear cut all that stuff. And we also have, as part of that stormwater program, we also monitor all of our urban impaired streams, which Arctic Brook is. So actually currently we have loggers out there right now, and we monitor this yearly. We look for, these loggers, they look for the good bugs. If you have good bugs, it means you have good streams. We also have a stormwater utility fee, and that fee is strictly used to improve the urban impaired stream. So we do riparian projects. We did one just upstream of this where, we recreate the floodplain and do like live staking, get trees in there. So, the good bugs can survive, and we have a floodplain instead of just washing out neighborhoods. So, we do, it might not seem like it all the time, but the city does monitor this stuff. We think about flooding, we think about traffic, we think about sidewalk access and safe and vehicle pedestrian safety. So I understand, these projects are, they can be controversial, but the city, and not just me, in the past and in the future going forward, we always think about that, and we study corridors, Broadway corridor. We had a large study from, Grandview down. We have plans to do a new corridor study once all the improvements are done at the interstate and all those safety improvements are done with the on and off ramps, to do Grandview out. We do know that, the 24 crashes that are at Grandview and Broadway, that is a 3-year period. That's how the DOT does their study of when it's high crash locations. So that's 2023 to 2025. So year 2023, year 2024, year 2025. So that's 24 crashes in that area, those 3 years. 2025, I think there were 5 crashes at Broadway and Grandview. On Essex Street, there were 2 in 2025. So, all crashes are not good, but we do monitor that, and we try to, provide for future use on that. Essex Street again is, our Grandview again, 2,000, 3,000 vehicles, AADT. That's not, for Bangor standards, that's not very much traffic. This development, I think, AM, PM peak hour are, under half of what traffic movement permits require. But that doesn't mean we don't look at, each intersection as well. So the, the applicant does provide us a traffic generation analysis. And we also review that. So that's my long answer of yes, a study, the city, engineering, planning, code, everybody is monitoring these situations as we develop the city. So that was kind of a long-winded answer, but.
Any other discussion or questions to the staff? While we were on the topic of traffic, I wanted to ask City Engineer Davis, are there any traffic calming steps planned for this area? Is there anything that we can talk to? Outside of what's been mentioned here with the sidewalk and the crosswalks there.
I think there were issues. I think there were concerns raised, throughout this area with crossing. So that's why the city put our flashing beacon in that area for the uptick in pedestrian usage. We are looking at putting sidewalks on Essex Street to the north of Grandview. That's been a complaint for quite a few years. So the city is looking to study is doing a study on sidewalk access throughout there. That area is outside of the downtown where you have closed drainage systems and curb. So it's all open ditches. So we have to look at how we deal with the open ditches to our closed drainage system and add in sidewalks. But again, we are looking at all of that. Specifically on Grandview, I know we had a speed complaint, I think 2 years ago, and the engineering department has a Black Cat radar system that it's a little box. We can hang it on a utility pole. It's not like a speed trailer that the police put out that you can see your speed. It's, people don't notice it, so you get accurate speeds. You don't get people either flying to get a high number or hitting the brakes so they don't get, past the speed limit. I think the 85th percentile 2 years ago, I think was like 30 miles, just around 30 miles an hour. I'm sorry, I should have brought that tonight, but it wasn't abnormally high as we have seen on other roads that we've done recently. But again, when these developments go in, we continue to monitor the speeds throughout the years. So, and then we use that traffic data to look at speed calming devices. In the recent past, we've gone to more of a speed table trial. We've done that on Kenduskeag Ave. Grandview might be a good opportunity for that because we have the trail system just north of this project. So there are ways that we can help calm traffic in that area. But our last speed study showed there wasn't really that high of a speed. Essex Street, that's a different case. I think we do have some high speeds on that for sure. But if that answered your question.
No, that did. I wonder if they'll ever do the high school as a one-way. And I wonder if that would ever, but that's not what we're talking about tonight. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, then at this point, we're going to turn to the findings. I want to know if, we're going to get started with the applicable provisions and findings, part one, as to whether the project meets the requirements of Articles 2 through 12. And let's make sure we're using the updated ones, just to make sure you guys need to take a minute to make sure you're using the most recent ones, the ones that were on the table when we were. So with that, I'd like to see if there's a motion on the first item.
Chair.
Yes, Member Hobson.
I move that the board finds that based on exhibits 2 and 11, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code section 165-33.1's requirements surrounding erosion and sediment control.
And a second for Member Jonas and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Huen?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Item 2?
Chair.
Member Jonas?
Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-62's requirements regarding visual clearance on corner lots.
And a second? Member Huen? And a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 3. Member Brush?
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied land development code section 165-62's requirements regarding building setbacks on planned streets.
And a second.
Second.
Member Hobson and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 4.
Chair.
Member Hobson?
Chair, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-64's requirements for side yard width.
Okay, and a second.
Second.
Member Hune and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item number 5. Member Brush?
Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied section 165-65's requirement regarding yard space for group buildings.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Member Jonas and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Item number 6.
Chair.
Member Jonas?
Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied section 165-69 of the Land Development Code regarding the requirements for planned group developments.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Member Hobson and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item number 7. Member Hune?
Yeah, Chair, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibit 2 and the finding made above in subsection 7 of Part 1 of Section 4 of this document, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code, Section 165-68's requirements for lot frontage.
Thank you. And a second. Member Brush and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item number 8. Member Brush?
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-72 regarding the required number of parking spaces.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Member Hobson, a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item number 9.
Chair.
Member Hobson?
Chair, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibits 2, 28, 30, and 52, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-73's requirements regarding parking space location and screening.
Thank you. And a second. Member Jonas and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Item number 10.
Chair.
Member Jonas?
Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibits 2, 28, and 30, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-74's requirements regarding parking lot design, construction, and maintenance.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Where'd that come from?
Uh,
Is that
Woodford.
This guy.
Woodford.
I'll take him.
Whitford.
okay?
Whitford.
Miss Member Woodford. The audio on that was strange. for some reason.
I caught that too.
Member Woodford with a second and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item number 11. Member Brush?
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2 and 37, the applicant satisfied Section 165-76 of the Land Development Code regarding required number of loading spaces.
Thank you. In a second.
I'll second.
Member Hobson and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Item 12.
Chair.
Is that Member Hobson? Okay. Yep.
Chair, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibits 2 and 37, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-77's requirements regarding loading space sizes.
Thank you. And a second. Member Hune and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 13. Is it Member Hune?
Yeah, Chair, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code 165-78's general requirements for loading spaces.
Thank you. In a second, Member Jonas, and a roll call vote, Member Brush,
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Member Hune.
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Item 14, Member Jonas.
Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibits 2, 32, and 50 through 53, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-79, requiring adequate utility service, including water, sewer disposal, electricity, fire protection, provision for stormwater runoff, and lighting, with the condition that the final subdivision plan addresses the comments from the Bangor Water District on July 20th, 2026, as shown as Exhibit 51.
Thank you. In a second,
Second.
Member Hobson, and a roll call vote, Member Brush,
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Member Hune.
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item 15, Member Brush.
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-80, requiring that whenever possible, all uses and developments shall be provided with the water service from the Bangor Water District and shall be connected to the Bangor sewer system.
Thank you. And a second, it's Member Hune, and a roll call vote, Member Brush.
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Member Hune.
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 16,
Chair.
Hobson.
Chair, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibits 2 and 7, the applicant satisfied the Land Development Code Section 165-81, requiring appropriate lighting and prevention of light trespass in accordance with regulations on intensity, direction, and height.
Thank you. In a second, Member Jonas, and a roll call vote, Member Brush.
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Member Hune.
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 17,
Chair.
Member Jonas.
Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibits 2, 27, and 32, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-82, requiring approval of fire hydrants from the Bangor Fire Department.
Thank you. In a second from Member Hune. And a roll call vote, Member Brush.
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Member Hune.
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford.
Yes.
And Member Chair. And the chair votes yes. Item 18. Member Brush.
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-83, requiring adequate electrical services.
Thank you. In a second,
Second.
Member Hobson, and roll call vote, Member Brush.
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Member Hune.
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 19. Member Hune.
Yeah, Chair, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibits 2, 8, 9, 10, 13 to 16, 24, 28, and 52 to 53, the applicant satisfied the Land Development Code Section 165-84, requiring provisions for surface water and storm damage, drainage.
Thank you. In a second,
Second.
Member Brush, and a roll call vote, Member Brush.
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Member Hune.
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 20.
Chair.
Member Jonas.
Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibits 2 and 37, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-85, requiring adequate sanitary sewage discharge information.
Thank you. And a second,
I'll second.
Member Hobson with a second. A roll call vote, Member Brush.
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Member Hune.
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 21. Member Brush.
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibits 2, 50, and 53, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-86's requirements of complying with Chapter 252 sewer and drain of the Bangor ordinance.
Thank you. And a second,
I'll second.
Member Woodford, the second, excuse me, Member Hobson with the second, and a roll call vote, Member Brush.
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Member Hune.
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. That completes part 1 and brings us to part 2, that as to whether the project meets the district site development standards under Article 19. There's one item here. Member Hobson.
Chair, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibits 2 and 37, the applicant satisfied Section 165-135 of the Land Development Code regarding height limits, impervious surface ratio, and buffer yards.
Thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
Member Hune, and a roll call vote. Member Brush,
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Member Hune,
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Completes part 2 and brings us to part 3 as to whether the project meets the requirements of section 165-128 for a major site for a major subdivision. Is there a motion for item 1?
Chair.
Member Hobson.
Chair, I move that the board finds that based on exhibits 2, 5 through 6, 8 through 18, 28, 29, 37 through 41, and 50 through 53, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-128C, 1's requirements that the subdivision shall meet the state of Maine guidelines for subdivision approval contained in 30 AMRSA subsection 4404, with the condition that the final subdivision plan addresses the comments from the Bangor Water District on July 20th, 2026, shown in Exhibit 51.
Thank you. And is there a motion? Is it Member Hune? And a roll call vote. Member Brush.
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Member Hune.
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 2, Member Brush.
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2 and the findings made in Part 1 of Section 4 of this document, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-128C2's requirements that the plat shall conform to existing zoning requirements regarding the dimensions and areas,
Thank you. And a second.
regarding lot dimensions and areas.
I'll second.
Thank you. And a second for Member Jonas. And a roll call vote. Member Brush.
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Member Hune.
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 3,
Chair.
Member Jonas.
Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-128C, Part 3's requirement for lots to have frontage on an approved street.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Member Hobson, and a roll call vote. Member Brush.
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Member Hune.
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item 4, Member Brush.
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-128C4's requirement regarding side lot lines being at right angles to straight street lines and radial to curved street lines.
Thank you. And a second.
I'll second.
Member Hobson, and a roll call vote. Member Brush.
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Hune.
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 5, Member Hune.
Sure, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-128C5's requirement regarding corner lots having adequate width to permit required building setbacks.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Member Jonas, and a roll call vote. Member Brush.
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Member Hune.
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford.
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Item 6,
Chair.
Member Jonas.
Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-128C, Part 6's requirement that all proposed streets shall provide connection with existing streets.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Member Woodford, and a roll call vote. Member Brush.
Yep.
Yes.
Member Hobson. Excuse me, I got to correct. And I apologize. I named you. It was Member Hobson with the motion.
I was the second.
Member
was the
Hobson,
motion.
thank you. Member Jonas with the, I'm stipulating this for the minutes, so my apologies for everyone. Member Jonas with the motion,
It doesn't
Member Hobson,
Except for Anya has classes.
Member Hobson with the second, thank you. And we were starting the roll call vote, and let's do it again. Member Brush,
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Member Hune.
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item 7,
Chair.
Member Hobson.
Chair, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-128C7's requirements that the street intersections not be at an angle of less than 60 degrees.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Member Brush, and a roll call vote. Member Brush.
Yes.
Member Hobson.
Yes.
Member Hune.
Yes.
Member Jonas.
Yes.
Member Woodford.
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Item 8, Member Brush.
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code, Section 165-128C10's requirements that street grades not be less than 1% or more than 6% unless the city engineer approves a variation from this standard.
Thank you. And a second?
Second?
Member Hobson, and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Whitford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 9,
Chair?
Member Hobson.
Chair, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code, Section 165-128C 11's requirements that residential access street right-of-way widths be not less than 50 feet.
Thank you. And a second, Member Jonas, and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Whitford?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Item 10,
Chair.
Member Jonas?
Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-128C Part 13's requirements regarding the number and spacing of access drives.
Thank you. And a second,
Second.
Member Hune, and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Whitford?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item 11, Member Brush?
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibits 2, 28, and 53, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-128C 14's requirement regarding interconnection of street and pedestrian systems.
Thank you. And a second,
I'll second.
Member Hobson, and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Whitford?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item 12, Member Hune?
Chair, I move that the board finds that based on the findings made in subsections 1 through 11 above, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code, Section 165 to 128C 14's requirement that the preliminary plat contain all required information in Section 165-128C.
Thank you. And a second,
Second.
Member Jonas, and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Whitford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. That concludes Part 3 and brings us to Part 4 as to whether the project meets the requirements of Section 165-114, the land development approval standards. Item 1, Member Jonas?
Chair, I move the board finds that based on the findings made in Part 3 of Section 4 of this document, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-114A's requirement that the project meets the subdivision criteria established under 30-A MRSA Section 4404 as it shall be amended, and the requirements of Article 18 of the Land Development Code.
Thank you. And a second? Member Brush, and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Whitford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 2,
Chair.
Member Hobson?
Chair, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code, Section 165-114B's requirements that the proposed parking and loading layout are arranged in a reasonable and safe configuration.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Member Hune, and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Whitford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 3, Member Brush?
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibits 2 and 32, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-114C's requirement that all proposed access drives from the site to any public right-of-way are reasonably and necessary and safe.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Member Hune, and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Whitford?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Item 4, Member Hune?
Chair, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibits 2, 8, 9, 10, 13 to 16, 28, and 52 to 53, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code 160, Section 165 to 114D's requirements regarding minimizing adverse effects from stormwater runoff and ensuring adequate stormwater collection capacity.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Hobson, a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Whitford?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Item 5,
Chair.
Member Hobson?
Chair, I move that the board finds that based on exhibits 2 and 7, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-114E's requirements that the proposed outdoor lighting is designed to avoid unreasonable light pollution.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Member Hune, and a roll call vote. Member Brush? Member
Yes.
Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 6. Member Brush?
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on exhibits 2, 19, 30, 37 through 38, and 52, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-114F's requirements for screening, landscaping, and free preservation, with the condition that the landscaping plans are updated to minimize conflicts between plantings and utilities, and to minimize disturbance and plantings within the 75-foot setback from
Wetlands.
from wetlands special significance of special significance.
And Member Jonas with a second. And a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Oh, excuse me, and Member
Yes.
Member Brush,
That's it.
let's start from the beginning just to make sure we followed it correctly. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Woodford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you for that correction. Excellent. Yeah, and item 7. Member Jonas?
Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-114G's requirement that the location of the buildings meet all required setbacks and are situated to avoid unreasonable adverse effects on adjacent properties or public rights of way.
Thank you. And a second, Member Brush, and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item number 8.
Go for it.
Member Hune.
Go for it.
Chair, the board finds it based on exhibits 2, 17, 18, and 52 to 53, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code, Section 165-114H's requirements that the proposed development site does not negatively affect historic sites, significant wildlife habitat, or rare and irreplaceable natural areas within 250 feet, with the conditions that the landscaping plan is updated to minimize conflicts between plantings and utilities and to minimize disturbance and plantings within the 75-foot setback from wetlands of special significance. Deed restrictions are created for lots 1 to 6 and lot 8 to minimize disturbance within the 75-foot setback from wetlands of special significance outside of that required for home construction. And before building permits are issued, the project requires wetland permitting approval from the Maine Department of Environmental Protection and Army Corps of Engineers, including permitting for activity within the 75-foot setback from wetlands of special significance.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Member Hobson, and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Woodford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item number 9.
Chair.
Member Hobson?
Chair, I move that the board finds that based on exhibit 2, 17, 18, and 52 through 53, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-114I's requirements of water resource and shoreline preservation of any ponds, lakes, rivers, streams, or tidal waters within 250 feet, with a condition that the final subdivision plan addresses the comments from the engineering department on July 16th, 2026, shown in exhibit 40.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Member Jonas with a second, and member, so for a roll call vote, Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hune?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Woodford?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. That completes part 4 and brings us to our decision. Now, before we move forward with this, are there any additional amendments or corrections needed in the reading of this decision? This seems to be updated and comprehensive for what we've discussed.
Yep, no further additions.
And this decision will be the preliminary decision, and they'll have to come back to
Mhm.
get the following.
Yep.
Final.
Yeah. Okay, are there any, is there someone who'd like to make the motion on the decision? Member Hit?
Yeah, Chair, I move that the board finds that the project meets the requirements for a land development permit for a majority preliminary subdivision, major site development, and planned group development. And therefore, the board grants the land development permit for this proposed project with the following conditions. The final subdivision plan for the project addresses the comments from the Bangor Water District on July 20th, 2026, shown in Exhibit 51, and updates the landscaping plan to minimize conflicts between plantings and utilities and to minimize the disturbance of plantings within the 75-foot setback from wetlands of special significance. Also, the deed restrictions are created for lots 1 to 6 and lot 8 to minimize disturbance within the 75-foot setback from wetlands of special significance outside of that required for home construction. The project receives final subdivision approval, and before building permits are issued, the project receives wetland permitting.
It continues on to the.
Yep, and approval from the wetland permitting approval from the Maine Department of Environmental Protection and Army Corps of Engineers, including permitting for activity within the 75-foot setback from wetlands of special significance.
Thank you. That's a very long one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And do we have a second?
Second?
Member Hobson, and a roll call vote. Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hobson?
Yes.
Member Hewen?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Woodford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Now, so as far as next steps on this one, staff indicate what we should expect.
Yeah, so they would have to submit a final subdivision plan along with the deed restrictions of any easements and things like that. And if the city is going to be accepting the open space, we'll need to have council accept the open space. Although it's kind of weird because we currently own the lot, so we have to work through that. But yeah, so they do have to submit that plan at least 20 days before the meeting where it's considered. And I had given Stephen the date, and I can't remember what that date was, but it's maybe next week. So it's pretty soon. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, it's the 28th is the date.
I think so.
Thank you. That completes that item and brings us to our other business. Our first item in our other business is a review of the bylaws that were attached in the meeting pamphlet for today. Now, how would we like to go about introducing this? Would you like to talk us through it?
Well, since I wasn't here at the last meeting, I'm not sure exactly what you wanted to talk about. I think it was related to attendance of. It was.
So one of the biggest items that was brought up, it was brought up in response to the question about attendance for our adjunct member or associate member or the person who fills in. And if we should place an attendance requirement for that role. And I think we were just taking a look through it to see if there was any refresher that we needed to have around it, or just open discussion around bylaws. Is that about right? Anyone want to correct that?
Mr. Chair, if I may, that is correct. I was going to bring up at some point just to see if you had any additional information on this. I happened to be looking on the onboard website and noticed that the associate position is currently listed as vacant.
That's a good point. We should announce, maybe someone from, maybe Anya, would you like to announce the information you received?
Justin submitted an email that kind of said that he was leaving the position. And so we took that as his resignation. So I had forwarded that to Lisa Goodwin, the clerk, since she manages all the vacancies and stuff like that.
And she agreed that it was a resignation?
I assume so, since it's listed as vacant. Yeah. He basically said he was leaving the city. And yeah.
I mean, it's definitely still something that should be looked at as far as bylaws. There just maybe isn't necessarily as much of an urgency at this point, but
Make it
it's,
Moot point because he's not there, because somebody else could do the same.
but it's definitely something that should still be, I think, amended in the bylaws.
Yeah, there wasn't comment about any, it's, we should just have an open discussion, right? So I won't necessarily ask people to announce, or be called on. I didn't see anything about attendance for any members, or any sort of measure on that front. And I know that we're all good faith participants and volunteers, and we come as often as we're able. If it's not a concern, if it's not an issue in general, then we might not need to formalize it. But is there any sort of similar attendance requirements in other boards or?
Well, I believe we do have a city policy on attendance. Grace, do you have more?
I remember seeing attendance somewhere.
I think we, yeah. Maybe we should.
Leonard might know. Do you want to come up to the podium?
While he's coming up. Yeah.
This is the first. I'm the council liaison just for everyone who's on the YouTube. So if I remember what we have for council, it is if you are outside of the city for a period of 6 months or more, that kind of makes the entire position that you have moot, and you're just automatically removed from the position that you're in. That's for what we have for council, and most other municipalities have something similar as well. Definitely double check that to make sure if I'm correct, but there isn't necessarily an attendance requirement. What it says in the charter for council, and this usually goes down the as a waterfall. It is if you are medically incapable of attending, or if you are outside of the city, or if you have some other excuse. Those are the only things that we are seeing as legitimate excuses, but there isn't necessarily a attendance roster. It's sort of a honor code sort of thing, but I don't think it would be necessarily unprecedented if you wanted to go forward with having some type of formalized attendance roster. I don't think that would violate any like Robert's Rules of Order or anything like that. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify that's if you wanted to, I don't think it would be a problem, but I also don't think it'd be a problem if you didn't do it as well. I think I'm not going to say personalities. Okay. Is there any other questions that you would have of me?
I mean, not at this moment, but anyone have any other question?
I'm assuming the city council will appoint another associate member.
So, and I did have one question there. It's that, so I know that there's a residence rule. I saw that stipulated in the bylaws, but in terms of changes to the bylaws, are we empowered to make our own changes to our bylaws?
It's in the very end.
Yes,
We are.
but there was some we were having some discussion about. Well, then if we can, we can. I just wanted to make sure whether we'd have to put it to council to have them vote on it.
Oh, Chair, if I could step in.
Yes, is that? Oh,
Yeah, it's me. Not to lawyer this to death, but I don't know if it's a good idea to necessarily have like a very specific requirement. Just because, if you say like no more than 2 absences, then, somebody might miss for an emergency, they might miss for a trip, a vacation. We oftentimes in the summertime have trouble getting a quorum anyways. So there's that to consider for an attendance requirement. And then as for, I guess, like punishments for not attending, if you're talking about removing a member, then that would have to be done by the council. So that's when they would step in. You can change your bylaws to add an attendance requirement, but any form of punishment would come from the city council.
so I guess that's where we're going, is that what form would it take if we were going to make the recommendation? We would have to make we would propose an agenda item to have a vote on as a recommendation to the city council as ought to remove a member or something to that effect. it would be interesting to know what the process would be if we encounter this issue again and don't get such a straightforward response from the person who did resign, if it was an issue.
Yeah, I can't give you a straight answer at the moment, but I think that you know, we could look further into it. I don't know that this has really happened before because our other boards and committees don't really have that.
Oh, and then Member Brush? And then- I'm
Yeah,
sorry, we'll get to you in a second.
One way to think about doing it would be to have a section in the bylaws on duties of the members, and a duty could be and maybe lighten up to say an expectation that they would attend the meeting.
Yeah, like regular
Regular.
attendance. Yeah.
And
Just still kind of wish.
all members have the expectation that they would attend the meetings. And then another section is on removal, which would be, I don't know how the phrasing, but we would be authorized to suggest to the city council they remove
Yeah, I
if
hear where
they
you're going
didn't
with it.
follow if they didn't meet the duties.
I was gonna, Counselor Leonard.
Member Brush actually brought up what I was going to suggest. You can always come to council and deliver a letter of this is an issue, or here's a matter that we would like your attention on the matter, and here's our recommendation. We actually take those matters very seriously.
Do you know if there's been, and if you're able to answer this, great, but otherwise, I'd look to Grace to see if the review if there's been any instances where this has happened on the planning board or others.
Certainly on council there was, but obviously that's within, excuse me, that's within a council matter. Off the top of my head, I don't recall one specifically, but I would almost assume something like this has happened within the past at some point. It wouldn't be that odd of an occurrence.
Thank you. And then Member Jonas?
I just wanted to ask, Member Whitford, if you have it, you opened this with a recommendation, I think it was from the Maine Municipal League. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't have that open in front of me,
Yeah,
but
I
what
was gonna
they,
Go back and check the minutes, sorry.
yeah, what they
Check the minutes.
had on the MMA's booklet or whatever it was that a board could request that a member be removed for cause, and that one of the for cause reasons was excessive absence, which is what I had been looking at in the first place. And they didn't have a specific number of any kind stipulated because different boards and different locations meet, different amounts throughout a month or year. But they did have, a for cause removal request at least, with one of those causes being excessive absences. So that's what it initially I had kind of looked at in bringing this up.
Yeah, Member Hobson.
Maybe there could be a provision in there to differentiate excused absences versus unexcused. Unexcused being, I just don't show up, versus I'm going to be on vacation, or I'm going, whatever it might be.
And share this, I mean, this could be kept fairly simple if this is something that does move forward. Something I had thought of was you could have a stipulation saying any member is expected to attend 2/3 of all meetings. Failure to do so could lead to blah, blah, blah. If we're meeting twice a month, 24 times a year, that's what, 16 meetings a year? I mean, you could keep it relatively simple, but still 16 out of 24, that's quite lenient. I think if you're missing 8 meetings a year,
Yeah, I would side on, there was a comment by Grace not to be like a very specific about the amount, but to keep it as like we know it when we feel like it's become disruptive, and then we have a discussion, and then we would vote on it as a recommendation to the city council to consider the matter. I could understand that process. But it does get very tricky, and I would hate for someone to be asked to leave because of like a technicality or like, but again, if it's an excused absence, that totally changes it, even if it was like, you could imagine a medical scenario or a situation someone would like to come back. But yeah. That makes sense to me. Does anyone remember Brush?
Yeah, going along with that could be the expectation that they attend the meeting or excuse their absence.
Yeah, that makes sense to me too. Like note it to the city staff. I think that's always helpful, so we know what to expect.
Well, not to throw a spanner in the works here, but do we want to or want not to make a distinction for whether you're actually present in chambers or you're on Zoom? Because I take advantage of that when I'm.
That's still attendance.
I think that's
Well,
still
I agree, but yeah.
I mean, if you only join via Zoom, then again, we know when it's a
Different, yeah.
problem. And I don't even think only joining by Zoom would be all that disruptive, although it's a little disruptive.
It is when the technology doesn't work, but.
I've appreciated this discussion. Are there any next steps that we're gonna?
I just have one
Oh.
more point, I think. The point of having an associate member is, because I was the previous one, is that person is ready to step in to ensure that there's a quorum or to ensure that we have a full panel when we need it. So I think that position is still very important. And one of the, I just went back to the minutes, and one of the recommendations was potentially having more than one associate member just in case. Now, I don't know that we have enough room at the table for that, but it's just, I feel like that position is really important. And I feel like because I was able to spend the better part of a year in that position, it really helped me understand how the board works, so that when I was able to become a full member, I really kind of knew what I was doing. So I think it's really important to have that position available so that when unexpected things happen, we've still got enough votes.
Yeah, like in the event of a conflict of interest.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think we've ever had an instance where we weren't able to conduct business because of a conflict of interest or a quorum not being reached in a meeting. We had some close calls.
We might have been close today if we'd had one. No, we'd still would have had that.
Chair, could I just
Oh,
for my own education, being relatively new, does the associate board member get to vote anytime that we don't have a full contingent
Yes.
of board members? So if
yeah.
I'm not here then the associate member would step in and vote.
My reading of it is, and maybe we should just get, I don't know, Anya, if you'd like to speak to it.
The associate member, when they're filling the spot of a regular board member, has the right to vote.
So whenever there's not 7 board members here, that person automatically becomes a voting member.
Well, they have to be like told that they're a voting
be
member,
told.
but, or be assigned as a voting member, but they always have the opportunity to talk and ask questions and
Sure.
deliberate and participate. It's just that we only can have 7 votes. And so if there's an 8th person, they sit out. But if there's a conflict of interest, and I remember there being a lot of conflicts of interest in the past, we've had very few in recent time, but I remember myself having to be conflicted out, and we had people to come in. So it's been good. It's definitely nice, and some of the associates have a lot to bring to the table in terms of discussion and knowledge. So it's always beneficial of that 8th person.
What would it take if we wanted to have a second associate? Would that be a city council?
Yeah, we would have to bring it to council because it's an ordinance change.
And it's in the it's in the bylaws that there's only one. So.
Yeah, I mean, the bylaws are easier to change because
But-
you can approve that,
right.
but with the makeup of the board, we have to go to council for that.
But fortunately, we've not had, at least in the, almost 3 years now I've been involved, we've had 1 and sometimes 2 absences, but that's been it. I'll take this pretty seriously.
I remember once we were down to 5 people.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it was when we were over at the previous place, if I recall right. All right, well, any actions that we're requesting for the bylaws or any changes that we're actually recommending? Either for this matter or somewhere else. Did anyone see anything else in the bylaws that sounded surprising or that we weren't recognizing here? I think it's a good refresher to see it. I would recommend every year, we just take an opportunity to discuss the bylaws as new members come on.
Great idea.
I think we should do that.
Like in the January meeting, if we can, when we do the
I didn't
education
legal with Grace's,
and the water.
Training.
the water district and Grace's conflict of interest training.
I'll put out one thing, because we did make this change with HPC, because to approve a certificate of appropriateness, they needed 4 affirmative votes, and that's more of an issue for them because they do have fewer members. With you guys, I don't think that it's been an issue. In the bylaws here, it says you need 4 affirmative votes to pass, for example, a land development permit. I don't think we've run into issues with that in the past, but just in case there were an issue where maybe you have just 5 members, you might have a 3-2 decision, but then the permit still couldn't pass because you don't have 4 affirmative votes. Since that is written in here, I just want to put that out to you guys if you see what you think.
Yeah, I have that as a reminder every time when we're going into it, that it is going to be required that we get 4 even. So if we have 6 people, it's not, has to be 4. A tie, it would be a 3-3 would still be, it would not pass. Has to be 4. And I think that makes sense because it has to be a majority of the 7 voting. Plus, that's why attendance is so important, because as we get lower, it's not fair to the applicants, and that's why we have to ask them before they present if they'd like to go forward with the scenario that we have.
That is a really great explanation.
Oh, all right.
Okay, for the record, that's a really great explanation. Thank you.
So, any other did you have something else to say about?
Well, I just wanted to get, I just kind of wanted to get what we do going forward. Like, it sounds like we do want to have something written in here about attendance and method of.
Would everyone agree to adding a section about removal, being able to propose a removal for cause? Is that vague enough, or is that too vague? Then it's not clear what the cause is.
It's pretty vague.
I think you would have to give some examples
We
of
would
what.
need to have that ability to remove someone for cause. You can imagine if someone was disruptive or in some way disruptive, I guess. It's really-
I think you would have to, in that situation, include what qualifies as for
But
cause.
we would make a recommendation to city council that makes it a deliberation determination. It's really not something that we're saying. We're just asking city council to review. And then Councilor Leonard.
But if we're saying this is why we're asking for this person to be removed, but it's not anywhere in the bylaws that's a requirement, we're tying the council's hands, but we're also opening up to an issue of the person that we're asking to be removed.
Councilor Leonard.
I just want to give my personal recommendation. Obviously, you guys do what you think is best. I would recommend at minimum putting something in your own bylaws for what is the minimums of what you expect the member to have. Obviously, that's not something that you could officially remove someone from the board for. But one thing that does do, though, is it gives council some sort of documentation that says, hey, this is what we have as a minimum for our board. And this is a violation that we set in our own bylaws. And this is why we're emailing you or informing you formally that this is an issue that we have. The other thing that I do want to state as well is, one, I would absolutely support you guys and I would go to bat for you if you wanted to pursue this, not only because I think it would help you out, but also this is something I've talked to our city clerk, Lisa Goodwin, about this at least once or twice, that attendance is something that we have issues with all of our other committees as well. And I think formalizing it in a committee like yours would actually help us create those echoes through all the other committees as well. So if you guys want to be the pioneers in this, I would absolutely support you guys. That's all I had, unless you had any other questions.
So it looks like it would be under section 3 with duties, that the duty that's listed here is related to the chair or the acting chair and what they have to do. There could be a section after that that includes members shall attend or provide notice of absence. And I don't know the exact wording we'd like to use. I don't know if we could.
We can draft something with legal, discuss it and bring something back to you.
And then any other duties that would be suggested other than attendance would it be like not cause disruption, or not disrupt the proceedings? Go ahead, Member Brush.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
I think the expectation that they attend meetings or have an excuse could go in Article 1, Section 1. Where that's the section that deals with
Yes. I see.
with the members rather than the duties of the chair.
Well, that section duties, it doesn't stipulate just the chair. Although I could see how you think that it comes after offices. So yeah, you're right. So we would like to see, I guess, where council thinks it might fit best. But other than attendance, are there any other expectations we'd want to
Could we
normalize?
put something in about essentially the terminology maybe not be right, but conduct unbecoming, for lack of a better way of saying it. And I'm sure that legal can clean that up.
So it'd be trying to identify what those clear duties are, at least to define them, and then to provide clarification on what the process would be for formalizing a request to city council requesting a removal of a board member. I guess those are the two pieces.
Yeah.
Did we hit it, guys? Are those the items we wanted to make sure we?
I think we might want to consider a clause on recommending removal.
Yes. What the process would be to recommend
Yeah.
the removal. Yeah.
We'll draft something and bring it back to you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other discussion on this item before we move on to the next one? There's it's called data center regulation discussion. Would
Yep.
that be you, Anya, who'd like to present?
Yeah, just more of an update at this point, because we did bring this to Business and Economic Development Committee last night. And we're going to be coming back to them with more information about how potential data centers at different sizes would affect our utilities, water, sewer, electric, and what their capacity is, at what threshold would potential upgrades be needed. If there was a closed loop system in a data center for water, how would that affect the water requirements? And then also looking into things like community benefits agreements and project hiring requirements. Oftentimes those fall outside zoning, and I was more focused on zoning with the memo that I included in your report. But we're going to look and see like what kind of leverage do municipalities have to require those kinds of things. But it just, the main purpose of bringing that forward was because, you know, obviously like the city has a moratorium right now, so we can develop these regulations. But we did some initial outreach at the polls, amongst other things that we talked to people about. Data centers was one topic. People kind of already have their minds made up about them. I think for the most part, people are thinking about the hyperscale data centers, the really large ones, and they just don't want them, period. And it's understandable because they have huge impacts on communities. So our question to council was, should we had looked into a ban. We're not really sure, you know, how that would hold up to a challenge, but we're going to look into that more because other communities have done it, and we'll look and see, you know, how did they justify that? But also there's the option of doing a ban of data centers over a certain size. Brewer does that. They ban data centers over 20 megawatts. And they set out 3 different tiers of data center size, and they have different regulations for each of those tiers. I think what they've done is pretty nice. And then, you know, regardless of whether we ban over a certain size or not, we would still have very strict regulations. And that's kind of what I was detailing in the memo, all the proposed regulations that we would have. I basically picked and chose, you know, from the communities that we included in this memo, but I also looked at other communities and model ordinances that people put out to put together this set of potential regulations. I did you know, just jot down like a few other things that we would probably want to add. For example, requiring confirmation that there is electrical capacity to serve this, and documentation of, you know, well, basically, we would kind of leave it up to you all because we would probably make it a conditional use wherever they would be allowed to say, you know, if they don't have electric capacity, among other things, you know, is that something we should approve, you know? But essentially, my proposal was to only allow these in industrial zones. We didn't really get into the nitty gritty of discussing, like, are there other places in the city that these might be okay? Are there certain commercial lots that these might be okay? If we wanted to pick and choose places in the city to put these, we might need an overlay zone instead of just picking a few zones where they're allowed. Having greater setbacks from residential zones, schools, daycares, very heavy regulations on noise, and not just regular noise, the dBA limits, but also having limits on low frequency noise, vibrations, things like that. Potentially requiring a certain amount of rooftop solar to help mitigate their impact on the grid, and also using battery energy storage because that can help mitigate their impact, but also reduce the noise impacts. Potentially requiring LEED certification, having a plan for e-waste, making all their power lines underground. And then would we want to maybe offer zoning incentives if they do things like provide waste heat to surrounding residents and businesses? You know, you could allow a greater building size or more height limit or greater height if they do certain things like that. So there's a whole host of things that we can do. And I kind of just put all of them in. So I wanted to get thoughts.
Isn't it true that the moratorium expires in October?
Yes, but we can extend it if we're still working on it and we need more time. So,
So we don't have to act before, just.
yeah,
extend
we
it.
just, council has to approve another extension. So
Somewhere, and I don't remember if it was one of the case studies that it was something that you recommended, but I did like the idea that it would have to have some kind of decommissioning plan,
yeah,
kind of like we do with
Mhm.
solar, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's really important to recognize that we've had a lot of big boxes that have been empty, and we might wind up with another one if this is the case, and with all of the resources and equipment and I don't know what else I want to say, but you know, there's got to be some kind of end of life or upgrade or some kind of plan to
Mhm.
scale it that the city taxpayers shouldn't have to bear the brunt of. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that and appreciated that as well. Did anyone else have any comments? I have a question about, so it's pretty clear. So first of all, I appreciate the thoughtfulness. There's so much good information here, and it definitely, with the, whether or not it's, a moratorium could hold up to appeal. And to have this ready and coming together is, I think, is great to see. If it's a company that is looking to build a property that they're not a data center company. Say it's another hospital or a university that's looking to build, it's too hypothetical, but those are two examples that I can think of, that they do as part of what they provide, they may have an on-prem data center. Now, it wouldn't necessarily be enterprise level. It would probably be like a tier 1 or something close to a tier 1, maybe. How would that fit into this? Would you be looking at a proposed site plan and asking them questions like, are there any data center services being provided in this building?
Right off the bat, I want to say we would consider that as accessory to the primary use. Like, for example, we have a room of servers that serves City Hall, but that's just accessory to our use as an office. However, given the sensitivity around this use, I would probably look into how other communities deal with that. Do they consider it as a primary use, even if it is accessory to another use? It's probably based on the size, I would have to guess, you know,
I figured it would be size as well, and
Yeah.
there'd be some sort of threshold. And that's why I thought it was good that you had these numbers here about, or proposed potential numbers around like megawatts.
Yeah.
The square footage is interesting. But yeah, even the tier 3 with the 5,000 square feet, I mean, that's very large. So
Yeah, but it's definitely a good question. We'll look into more.
any concerns about existing data centers? I know we have one at least in Bangor.
Which one are you thinking of?
Give me a second to come up with their name. They're based out of Bangor and they're based out of Brunswick. I think it's First Light, maybe. Does that sound right?
I'm not sure. I mean, if they're existing, they're not affected by the moratorium because that just affects new development.
And I don't know if they're even tier 1. I think they're even smaller than that, but I'm not, I have no insight into it. So
Okay.
we're not proposing any sort of retroactive.
No.
Yep. All right. Any other comments or questions? So what's the next steps? You're going to be reviewing this some more for the next few months?
Yeah, we're bringing more information back to council about the infrastructure capacity and things like that. And then get more direction as far as, and we'll also be looking into bans and if that's viable. And then we'll be looking to council for more direction on where to go from here. But potentially after that, looking at regulations. And we'll be working with our land use code consultants to help develop those as well. If that's the direction we go.
It is-
Yeah.
It is First Light I was thinking of.
Yeah. And we probably will also do like a public survey on the proposed regulations, just to make sure we're transparent with people and, you know, what we're doing and get any feedback, and see what people say.
Other agenda, are we ready to move on to any other questions on this item? All right, thanks. It's just an open discussion about land development code updates, and land use planning. Is there anything else in the near future that should be coming?
I don't know if you guys will be seeing anything soon. I am aiming to finish, I know I said this last month, but then I went on vacation. I'm aiming to finish up staff review by the end of this month. And I think we're on track. And after that, we'll be looking at the zoning map. Right now, we've just been looking at all the text. We'll be looking at the map piece of it and also talking with the consultants, like going through all of the comments that we've made and discussing that. So it's going to be a lot to do all that. But I'm fingers crossed we'll have, you know, a new draft for everyone else to review by the end of the year. I just don't know how long, because some of the changes we've asked them to make are going to be pretty big, and I don't know how long it's going to take them to make those changes. And I am sorry that it's taken longer than we expected. Maybe it was overly ambitious to shoot for this summer because it is such a huge project to do a land use code overhaul. I think Portland took like 8 years to do theirs, so.
I haven't had a lot of other stuff going on at the same
time. Right.
Thank you, everybody. There's some forms to sign here this evening.
Yeah, the findings that you
So
adopted.
let's make sure we stay around to do our signatures. Any other items before we? It is 9:56.